Ooh. Nobody needs to see that. Bad enough I have to look at my double chin. Come on, you. There we go. Alrighty then. Welcome back to the chaos. Am I working on this shit? You welcome to hang around and also watch me work on this shit, or pop in every once in a while to see how this shit is going? Alright, what are we watching? Sure, I'll go to Food Theory and watch the same thing over 50,000 times. I'll get these out of the way first, because they need 50,000 layers of everything. Especially red. This is it. I sit here and work on stuff, and you chat with me, or you pop in every once in a while to see if I've stabbed myself in the eye doing something stupid.
Have you heard of the Mountain Dew conspiracy theory? Have you guys heard about the
Mountain Dew conspiracy? Mountain Dew. I guess I'm gonna call it a theory. The Mountain Dew conspiracy. It's got people wondering if Mountain Dew really has been predicting catastrophes for decades now. And honestly, it's deeper than you could possibly imagine. Nobody's safe, especially not Disney. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Food Theory, the channel where it's due time we do conspiracies. And I gotta tell you, I've seen my fair share of crazy conspiracy theories on the internet, okay? Heck, I've talked about a couple on this channel myself, but this one right here might just take the cake. If you're not in my little corner of the internet where every other post you get is about fast food conspiracy theories or fast food conspiracy theories, you may not even be aware of what I'm talking about. So let me bring you up to speed. Earlier this year, people started catching on to the fact that Mountain Dew, the beloved nuclear waste green soda that's been keeping gamers gaming since 2007, yeah, scratch that, 1999, maybe? Or was it 2005? Regardless, the drink synonymous with gaming has predicted catastrophe after catastrophe dating all the way back to the early 2000s. Ridiculous? Yes. Possible? Aggravatingly so. But here's the thing, it's not just global catastrophes that Mountain Dew has predicted. The rabbit hole goes way down. And if you stick around to the end of the video, I'll show you just how much evil the Dew be doing. Now, this whole thing seems to have started about 2 years ago, 2023. Suddenly circulating the rounds on Facebook and Reddit when people saw a suspiciously close connection between Mountain Dew's Maui Burst flavor and the Maui fires of 2023. From there, the cork boards and red yarn got pulled out, and the conspiracy plot thickened as people started looking back over the years. So let's start at the beginning, shall we? According to the theory, the earliest prediction made by
I need something to put this shit in. I'm not gonna be dipping all the time.
Experimented with flavor outside of its trademark beige green. It increased Mountain Dew's overall sales by 6% in its first year, and it's still a fan favorite to this day. It was released in May 2001, which has people connecting it to what is possibly the Code Red in American history, September 11, 2001. The interesting thing here is that Code Red at the time was more commonly attributed to hospital codes or military usage. And if we're being honest, the movie A Few Good Men. And even within the military usage, it was more often used in regards to extreme weather conditions, not any sort of emergency safety. In fact, the Homeland Security Advisory System that's still in place today that denotes the risk of terrorist attacks in the U.S. wasn't even a thing until after 9/11, March 2002 to be exact. It could be argued that Mountain Dew Code Red could have been foreseeing both the attack and the subsequent safety system that would then be implemented because of it. And listen, if I'm gonna face another global catastrophe, I'm doing it well prepared. I've got my Mountain Dew emergency kit ready. Let's see here. I got Coke Zero, duh, 2 copies of Men's Health, September 2017 issue with Ryan Reynolds on the front, a carton of eggs, a whole bunch of stuff. And I know what you're asking yourself. In this economy? Yeah, because I use today's sponsor, Upside. It's a free app that gets you cash back on daily essentials like gas, groceries, and dining. And yeah,
Hi, Shadow Dragon. Shadow Dragons, how are you doing tonight? I just get to get these out of the way with their second coat before I get to the monsters, so these can paint or dry or something. But I forgot how fucking sucks painting red.
Because now, no matter where I go, whether it's filling up my tank or when we're out on a date, she's always triple and quadruple checking that I'm using Upside. I love her, but if I hear I just don't want to miss out on $300 $100 a month like some people are making. One more time, I'm going to drop kick her square in the face. And that's not an exaggeration. Top upside earners are making as much as $300 a month. To find out how much you could earn, hit the link in the description below to download Upside and use code Food Theory to get $10 cash back on your first.
Well, we got a forest fire.
Or gas. Or scan the
Hopefully they
QR
can get it under control soon before it spreads. It's supposed to rain Thursday, but I believe it when I'm dancing in it.
The next big flavor release was none other than Baja Blast, the Taco Bell exclusive that won the hearts of people everywhere. This one was released in July of 2004 and was the next big push in flavor evolution following Code Red. The word blast and the giant wave illustrations on the can have led people to connect this to the Boxing Day tsunami of 2004. For those of you unfamiliar with it, it is the deadliest tsunami in history and the deadliest natural disaster of the 21st century. And I do want to take a moment here to pause for a second, because I have personal connections to both of these two events. I was a little kid in Connecticut when 9/11 happened, and I was a slightly less little kid in Hong Kong when the tsunami hit. I know people that were directly affected by these tragedies. It goes without saying, but these events, and the rest I'll talk about in this episode, were tragedies where thousands or hundreds of thousands of people lost their lives. And I want to be clear that I'm not trying to diminish or trivialize or make light of the fact that these were horrible events that impacted hundreds of thousands of families worldwide. I'm just digging into what this conspiracy is saying. It's important for me to take this time to clarify. And now that we've had this serious moment, let's continue. Joke, joke, theory, Tom Socks, and...
These are actually going to be monsters on these. I'm going to put a base on them of like ocean waves. And then I am going to have like tentacles coming up from the water wrapping around the lighthouse like a kraken. And a giant sea monster.
And 4 years after Baja Blast, Mountain Dew released Voltage, their blue raspberry flavor. It also coincided with the 2008 financial crisis. Voltage was announced as the winner of the Democracy campaign in August, where fans were able to vote on the new flavor that the brand could release. It was a massive marketing push. This happened right before the so far,
I also got the dog home tonight, so if I get up and leave suddenly, no, it's probably her.
A major event tied to the release or even the name. This honestly,
Just too hot after camp for her.
looks like a mighty good accessory right now. So let's take a look at some of the other ones that have been repeated on these podcasts.
Maui Verse. 3 months later, guess what's happened? Fires of Maui. Francis Scott Key Bridge. Why did they have a flavor that released last year called Star Spangled Splash? Now, who wrote the Star Spangled Banner? Francis Scott Key.
Okay, this is getting a little freaky. Sure, the first three seem prophetic enough, but could be open to interpretation. I mean, it's not like the word voltage has much to do with a global financial crisis, but suddenly you have Maui Burst, and 3 months later, fires in Maui. Then a specifically named Star Spangled Splash right before the collapse of a bridge named after the man who wrote the Star Spangled Banner? I mean, who wouldn't buy into this? I've got goosebumps. You can't see them, but I'm pretty sure the editor can give me goosebumps. Editor! Goosebump me. No, not that goosebump. You know what? It's fine. Moving on. There's one more flavor mentioned by this person for us to take a look at.
They even had a flavor called Pitch Black, and I told people to watch for it. Then the IT thing.
Everything shut down.
That shut down. One big blackout.
It's not often I'm left speechless, but when I was watching this clip and started hearing these names and events get more and more connected, and then saw that Mountain Dew themselves commented telling him to keep his voice down, I mean, that's it. Roll credits. Theory over. Conspiracy prove it. The brand itself even felt the need to comment. But just for the sake of due diligence, let's take a closer look at those flavors. Because where the first three had years in between their releases, these last three only had 1 year separating them. Does this mean that Mountain Dew is predicting these events quicker and quicker? Is there some sort of countdown to a Mountain Dew apocalypse apocalypse that we're uncovering here? The Maui fires occurred in 2023. According to this conspiracy theorist, a mere 3 months after Maui Burst hit the shelf. Thing is, that's not true. Maui Burst was actually released in Dollar General stores in the US in October 2019, a full 4 years before the fire. Granted, that was only a limited time release, but it became a permanent dollar store flavor only a few months later in 2020. To be fair, it was only sold in single 16-ounce cans, and it wasn't until April 2023, 4 months before the fires, that it would finally get released in 12 packs. Not the cleanest connection anymore, but heck, we can give the benefit of the doubt for one. The Star Spangled Splash name is eerie, though, so let's take a closer look at that one. The Francis Scott Key Bridge collapse took place in March of 2024, and the Star Spangled Splash flavor was released in June of 2024. Not really much of a prediction if it doesn't actually, come before the event it's supposedly predicted. Unfortunately, Pitch Black is in the same situation. It's actually even more egregious. Pitch Black was first introduced by Mountain Dew for Halloween in 2004. It was re-released for years after until they made it permanent in 2021, which was still a clean 3 years before the IT blackout it was supposed to have predicted. And sure, I guess in this case, it did at least come out before the event, unlike the Star Spangled Splash, but a 3-year error margin isn't really all that impressive, especially because it was released and re-released a bunch of times before that. That's like predicting when a traffic light is going to turn green and getting it wrong 4 times before it finally turns, and you celebrate like you're a psychic. A 50-50 hit rate isn't really doing wonders for winning me over into this conspiracy. I do a better job of predicting when you're going to click that subscribe button. 3 seconds. 3, 2, 1, done. See? Nailed it. And if I was right, make sure you write whoa in the comments below. Let's freak some people out, because Mountain Dew sure isn't doing it anymore. And maybe you've sat there this whole time saying, well, of course Mountain Dew isn't Nostradamusing us with their flavors. Which, fair, totally fair. But there's something else here that's worth talking about. I've been seeing this everywhere. Reddit, Instagram, Twitter, you name it. It's been repeated over and over for months. How it's presented is pretty darn convincing. Heck, even the flavors that don't line up are pretty easily hand-waved away by saying that
Not every flavor correlates with every event.
we've already shown those last 3 don't really add up. But here's the thing. Since Code Red, Mountain Dew has released dozens of flavors. Limited time ones, permanent ones, international ones, all of which could line up with some sort of event if you try and find it. When it comes to this particular conspiracy, and some others, but hey, it's not about them right now, it boils down to confirmation bias and correlation. Confirmation bias is the tendency to look for information that supports something you already believe. You'll naturally have a bias to seek out things that go along with your idea and discount anything that doesn't. Sherlock Holmes actually has one of my favorite quotes about this. Basically, he says that if you try and theorize without actual information, you start to twist facts to suit theories instead of theories to suit facts. It's sort of what we're all about here. We try to theorize in order to fit in the facts that were presented. This conspiracy seems to be doing the opposite. There's a reason why the predicted flavors seem to speed up.
Hello, Sophie. How are you tonight?
Mountain Dew is aware of and trying to warn
I'm
people.
just finishing up these lighthouses. Hopefully, maybe. Shit.
Stuff happens everywhere at all times. More flavors, more horrible events, more opportunities to connect them. Again, some of these interesting coincidences. But when more flavors don't apply to catastrophes than ones that do, that's all it is. Coincidence. The most important thing for you to take away from this, especially in this day and age, is that this conspiracy hinges on correlation, meaning the connection between 2 things. In this case, Mountain Dew flavors and catastrophe. But correlation does not imply causation. At some point, you may have had a teacher, like I did, repeat that so many times, you started saying it in your sleep. All it means is that just because 2 things are happening at the same time doesn't mean one is causing the other. It's all just about finding close enough data. For example, I tracked the number of Mountain Dew flavor releases from 2000 to 2025 and matched that to the number of Disney Channel original movies that were released. And oh boy, take a look at this. There's an almost perfect negative correlation between the number of Mountain Dew flavors and DCOMs, meaning the more Mountain Dew flavors coming out, the less movies Disney Channel releases. That's right. According to this data set, Mountain Dew is the reason that we haven't gotten follow-ups to Phantom of the Megaplex, Motocross, or Cetus Lapidus, even a reboot of Xenon Girl of the 21st Century. Criminal, I tell you. And for what? Just so we could get Mountain Dew Mango Rush? I guess at the end of all of this, the irony is that while Mountain Dew was predicting all these catastrophic events with their flavors, we never imagined they were sealing the fate of the Disney Channel with every release. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Buen provecho. And hey, if you want to see more conspiracy theories, make sure to click the link on the screen now. And as always, I'll see you next week.
Sun and moon are the key to solving the mimic. We always knew.
There we go. Alright, all these we got their second coats on. Alright, move these without knocking any of them over. Oh boy. I did it! Oh fuck, where'd you come from? Go. Triple thick. Could do triple thick because it doesn't have any polymer clay on it. So that will work. Why are you paused? You're not paused. You're not connected. Hello? What the hell is going on? Let's see if that'll work. Probably not. God damn it. Hello? Anybody there? Am I still live? Can anybody see me? Well, that's still running. That's not, though. Oh, fuck nuggets. Alright, let's try something else.
Kids. His brother also came on the trip, and he does have a wife and kids that came with him.
I don't
And
care.
also-
Stop talking TikTok. I've seen they're up in Bears Lake, I believe. I did hear they're somewhat under control, so that's good. But we need that rain. Alright. Come on, what's going on? What the fuck is happening now? Hello? Sorry about this. I'm not sure what's going on. Something's not right, and I don't know what. You know what? Fine. If it's gonna be like that, screw it. Cancel.
Are creator food products doomed to fail? Why do creator food products have such a
I just need something to listen to, so that'll do for now.
that have ruled for so long? It all comes down to one simple thing: cake. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, the show that's officially entering its business mogul era. Okay, probably not, but man, it feels like every other creator on the platform is. Every day I check social media and I see another creator is coming out with some brand new product. Long gone are the days of creators just selling
shirts with their logos on them. Some of your favorite and least favorite YouTubers are
I
dipping
think
their
my
toes
logo
into
would be an
style
excellent
and beauty,
t-shirt.
game development, and even TV and movies. But we don't care about all that right now. No, right now we're looking specifically at the food products creators get themselves wrapped up in. And there are plenty of food and drink options available out there, many of which are from creators who you don't typically associate with the food space. I mean, sure, hot ones making hot sauce and cold ones brewing cold ones, that's a no-brainer. But like, what does FaZe Rug know about making freeze-dried candy? You'd think that if you have a big enough audience and create a decent enough product, it's just gonna work out, right? But for every Joyride, which has slowly climbed its way to the top of Target's best-selling candies list, there's Prime. Yeah, and I want to be clear here. This is not a diss. I'm gonna keep it 100. When Prime first released, it was a major success. I bet it caused some serious shaking in the boots among the big boys over at Coke and Pepsi. But over the past few years, Prime's numbers have started to decline. According to recent news, in 2024, Prime's total revenue in the UK fell by over 70%, from £112.2 million in 2023 to just £32.8 million in 2024. Meanwhile, their net profit fell from $3.72 million to just $300,000. That's an over 90% drop in profit in just 1 year. Clearly, even the biggest creators aren't immune to this. Just take a look at the biggest creator of them all, Mr. Beast. You may be shocked to hear that actually his chocolate company, Feastables, makes more profit than all of his other ventures combined. Yeah, even the YouTube channel. But for all the talk about the success of Feastables, we almost never hear anything about Beast Burger or Lunchly anymore. And if the biggest YouTuber on the planet can't even bat 1,000 when it comes to creator-made products, then what hope do I have for starting Santi sandwiches? To paraphrase the immortal words of Jay-Z, I don't want to be a businessman. I want to be a businessman. And so, after analyzing the successes and failures of my fellow creators and spending hours upon hours looking into the ups and downs of influencer food products, I think I've narrowed down the 4 key factors that stand in the way of creators. And in the process, I've cooked up something sweet of my own. I call it cake. And no, I'm not making another cake. I'm too traumatized by that. It's the 4 obstacles that stand in the way of creators taking the step out of the YouTube sphere and onto the grocery store shelf. So let's kick off this creator confectionery cake with obstacle numero uno.
I really should have started streaming like 3 hours ago, but I didn't. Suppose I can pop up the polymer clay when these guys are drying.
Delicious.
I'll put you guys some. You know,
M&M's. It's more fun together.
Eevee Evolution. Eevee's Hungry Evolution.
Excel, do what feels fresh.
I know. Duh, Santi. If you want to create a successful product, you have to make something that people will actually buy. What a revolutionary idea. First off, rude. Second, well, yeah, you want to create something that's actually, like, good. You also have to create something that people need to buy on a regular basis. For example, take the one thing that fans buy more than anything else from their favorite creators, merch. Merch is great, but most people are only going to buy merch a few times a year. And the same is true for the second most bought item from creators, beauty products. But food and drinks, everyone needs to eat. So if you nail the right product, you can quickly start pumping out repeat customers. But not all food products are well suited for people to buy over and over again. Take the Hot Ones 10-pack. It's a really cool, albeit expensive product that allows you to see if you can handle the Hot Ones gauntlet, just like your favorite celebrity. Problem is, this is the sort of thing you buy once and probably never again. And sure, you may go out and buy your favorite individual sauces, but unless you're like me and are going through bottles of hot sauce like nobody else in business, it's not gonna be a regular seller. So the secret is selling products that everybody needs every day, which would explain why so many creators have been brewing up their own coffee brands. And if you try to tell me that I don't need coffee every morning, I'm gonna climb through this screen and I'm gonna scream in your face. It's important. Alright? But just as important as what you sell is where you sell it. Most creators opt to sell their product DTC, or direct to consumer, i.e. via their own website or on a site like Amazon. That's much easier and simpler. You don't have to convince a mega corporation like Walmart or Target to give you some of their precious shelf space. But the downside to selling your product exclusively online is that it creates a bit of friction between your customer and the sale. Most people aren't going to Amazon to pre-purchase all their snacks for the week. If you're selling a naughty little sweet treat like candy or cookies, you want your customers to see your display when they're already shopping and be like, ooh, I'll treat myself, thank you very much. Of course, that's easier said than done. Just ask Ryan Trahan and Mr. Beast. On YouTube, they are kings. Very much the big fish in a tiny, tiny pond. But when they approach the likes of Walmart and Target, who make hundreds of billions of dollars in revenue a year, they very quickly found themselves dropped into a much, much bigger pond. Both Feastables and Joyride had to start out in just a few stores with subprime shelf space. But once the dollars started rolling in, Brian and Jimmy were able to roll out their candy brands nationwide and be right there alongside their biggest candy competitors. Something they wouldn't have been able to do exclusively selling their candy online. So obstacle number one of trying to launch a successful YouTuber food product is not only creating something that people will need to buy on a regular basis, but also making sure you place it front and center in their daily lives. On to number two, which, let's be honest, for some creators out there, is damn near impossible. Yeah, this is the one that tends to get YouTubers, and especially their products, into some hot water. While creators themselves can ride out the waves of controversy that pop up during their career, their products really struggle to gain any meaningful traction if the product itself is marred by scandal. I mean, creator products by their very nature don't come with years of established brand loyalty. At least, not the product themselves. That's why Chipotle can give us salmonella and Panera lemonade can literally kill people and it doesn't affect their bottom line. They're established names. But if you told me that every bag of Joyride had a 1 in 1,000 chance of having a severed finger in it, I'd think twice about ever eating it again. And that's the thing. Even if the controversy is untrue or blown out of proportion, that can still end up taking the product down in a blaze of glory. Remember when Prime was sued for allegedly containing high amounts of the toxic forever chemicals, PFAs? When that broke, there really wasn't any solid evidence to go off of other than the lawsuit itself. In fact, as far as I can tell, that lawsuit is still going on to this day, yet the court of public opinion has seemed to have already rendered its verdict. The same could probably be said for Lunchly. While its supposedly moldy cheese did garner a lot of attention on social media, in all likelihood, these were probably isolated instances that weren't indicative of Lunchly's overall manufacturing process. But if you're someone who never tried Lunchly before and saw the pictures of people with their blue cheese that's not supposed to be blue, you'd probably steer clear, just in case. But of course, sometimes creator product controversies are very much a self-inflicted wound. Case in point, Pokémon's cookies. When Pokémon first released her healthier cookie brand Mina Snacks back in 2023, some fans were understandably taken aback by the price tag. $28 for 4 bags of cookies is a bit excessive, but that really wouldn't have amounted to much of a controversy if she didn't end up sticking her entire foot in her mouth.
When people are like, oh my god, $28 for cookies? It's 4 bags. That's $7 a bag. I know math is hard. Like, if you're a broke boy, just say so.
Yikes, that was certainly tone deaf to say the least. Of course, Pokey immediately apologized for what she said, but the damage was done. Although you can still buy Mina Snacks to this day, you basically never see Pokey herself promoting them. And when it comes to a YouTuber product, the YouTuber is kind of important. And that right there is the problem. Celebrity endorsements to help the brand connect to a specific market is one thing. But when all the brand has is the celebrity, any missteps on their part, and suddenly any and all marketing comes grinding to a halt. Alright, we're halfway through our cake. What's next? This is a big obstacle for creators, and a big disconnect when it comes to creating a food product. See, a creator's online audience might be extremely different from the audience they're trying to reach when it comes to a food product. The younger audiences that might consistently watch and follow creators on YouTube aren't the same ones with the reliable spending power that'll make your food or drink fly off the shelf. Not only that, but if they do happen to convince their parents they absolutely need to have their favorite creator's food in the pantry, or they want to try it out because all their friends are drinking or eating it, it's usually only for a while. See, young consumers are the least loyal to brands. Couple that with the fact that Gen Z and Gen Alpha go through trends like I go through double stuffed Oreos, and you have a consumer base that will stay with you for a couple of months to a year max, until the next thing comes along or until they get bored. So when creators with fan bases and revenue large enough to expand to other ventures decide to take that leap, marketing to the people that have stuck by them actually shoots them in the foot. But even if they do market the brand correctly to an audience with spending power and loyalty, they've lost the one thing that gave them a shot at competing with the big names in the first place. Now they're just another product on the shelf, and they have to work twice as hard to make those sales. If you really want your YouTuber food brand to go viral, you have to keep putting in the effort long after the hype dies down. When it comes to media, and especially social media, trends come and trends go fast. Even if your creative product sees massive success right out the gate thanks to your huge social media following, once that initial hype dies down, your audience and your customer is going to ask, what's next? When you release your own YouTuber product, all the marketing goes through one person. You are the marketing division, the product developer, the CEO. Everything is on you to keep that engine chugging. There's never really going to be a point where everything just becomes self-sustaining. You gotta keep pushing products, keep innovating, sell. I know I keep bringing them up in this episode, but yes, Ryan and Jimmy once again seem to understand this more than others. As much as it may seem annoying to see Mr. Beast push his Feastable bars in every single video he does, the fact of the matter is, he has to. If he wants to keep growing his business, he has to keep Feastables at the top of your mind, especially if it's the one keeping his lights on. Not only that, he's changing the formula, the packaging, adding new flavors, and most recently, he started to really focus on how he ethically sources his cocoa, an industry that's rife with human rights abuses, and probably worthy of a food theory of its own one day. Similarly, Ryan Trahan knows how to keep us going for a joyride. The Climb, the story of Joyride's rise up Target's candy leaderboard, is a perfect way to keep the audience engaged. Is Joyride gonna be #1 this month? Find out next time on Dragon Ball Z. And not only is he churning out new flavors seemingly every month, but recently he broke a Guinness World Record for the most photos of people holding candy uploaded to Instagram in 1 hour. It's kind of specific if you ask me, but regardless, I helped. And it's not just YouTubers who have to follow this rule. Think about it. Every single person on this planet knows what a Coca-Cola is. And yet, Coke still does advertising. They make new products, and they sign on celebrity endorsements. The big difference is Coca-Cola is more than just a single person. They're a symbol. Like Batman. They can do it all, like Batman. Whether it's that super long ad before every movie at AMC, or funny ad battles with Pepsi, or linking up with whoever's hot right now for a limited time flavor, they can sell to consumers in a million different ways with a million different faces. YouTuber products rely on the YouTuber. And honestly, most of them don't have the time to do anything other than promote on their own channels or social media, which limits your audience, your reach. And if they suddenly stop promoting it to keep it at the top of their viewers' minds, well, that's it. Their viewers don't see it everywhere else they go. They don't see it on billboards or ads in the middle of their favorite YouTube video. And in this day and age, if you're not constantly bombarding your audience, that's a wrap. I mean, think about all the things that had to go right for you to make it all the way to this video. Thank you, by the way. You could have been listening to the Top Tua podcast or drinking a high C orange on your back porch, but you're here. And if I just suddenly stopped making YouTube videos, well, you'd probably forget about me. Sentimentality aside, it's true. With so many choices and options out there, it's a constant battle just to keep viewers coming back, let alone thinking about creators when they're at the grocery store. And that battle, that's why even products from the biggest creators usually end up fizzling out. Because those big brands creators have to step in the ring with, they're in it for the long game. Coke has been around for almost 140 years. Pepsi for 130. Kraft has been around for over a century too. They don't care about hype drops. They don't care about trends. Not really. They've seen a million come and go. There's articles every couple of years looking at Coke hitting lows and questioning, is this the end? In 2017, they had a historically low year. And in 2023, they made more money than they had in the previous 13 years. One bad year doesn't matter. They're looking at the next 10, 20 even. Creators, we don't have that kind of time. One, because none of us have cracked immortality yet, working on it. But two, because at the end of the day, longevity is one of the hardest things to obtain in this world of content creation. It's an exhausting grind that few people can keep up.
It's a grind. I'm just trying to get my hours up for monetization, and I'm only halfway there.
Products are failing. That's not even the right word. Hell, the fact that some of these creators get to bang with the foodie best for a year or two is a feat to be celebrated, but the game is rigged from the get-go. Who knows? Maybe understanding these obstacles, this cake we gotta take a big old bite out of if we want to succeed in the food space, someone will be able to create something that truly lasts. We might be seeing it now, or maybe a new product will come along by a super talented Argentinian food creator, one that grows bigger than the creator himself and becomes a symbol, like Batman. You could even say it'd be a piece of cake. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory. Buen provecho. And hey, if you want to see me talk about when collaborations go wrong, click the card on screen to see me fix Little Caesar's terrible Fantastic Four pizza. And as always, I'll see you next week.
Own a design studio. Get a really cool design contract. Realize you have to do a whole bunch of mathy business work before you can even start the not mathy design work. Use QuickBooks to see the big picture. Use QuickBooks to manage cash flow. Add some more cash to your flow. Let QuickBooks do more of this, so you can do more of the things you love. Intuit. QuickBooks. Manage and grow your business all in one place.
You're next.
Coca-Cola is changing forever. The current administration just announced that there were talks with Coke to change their sweetener from high fructose corn syrup to cane sugar. But what does this move actually mean? Well, believe me when I tell you, not much and a whole lot all at the same time. Hello, Internet. Welcome to Food Theory, the show with a host that's naturally sweet. And today we're talking about my favorite thing in the whole wide world, Coca-Cola. If you've been paying attention to the
I don't care anymore. Give me something besides food theory. Oh my god, fuck you.
The new trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's 2 is finally here.
It hurts.
Not to hype things up, but someone tells us exactly what Scott has planned for the series headed forward. I guess you could say he's the real puppet master here. Hello, Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's wearing a giant animatronic bear head today. I'm blending in with game theory videos right now. So, did you guys see the new FNAF 2 trailer? Well, listen, at this point, if you're familiar with the Theorist channels at all, you know we cover a lot of Five Nights at Freddy's. It feels like we've made hundreds of videos trying to solve the lore of this thing. Fun fact, but as many of you know, I was actually a video editor over on Game Theory before FNAF first even started up. I was here when the first FNAF theories got made, though I somehow managed to avoid working on them until like 2020. I was pulling a Neo and dodging those bullets, man. But that let me experience those theories as a fan, something most of the team didn't get to do. I also had the cool experience of creating a theory on the first movie when Matt was actually in that movie. He didn't tell me anything about it before that video came out, so the video wasn't really compromised, and he trusted me with that responsibility. But needless to say, my relationship with FNAF and theorizing about it, it's unique, which is why I'm happy to say that I'm really excited about Five Nights at Freddy's 2, especially after the latest trailer dropped a couple weeks ago. I thought the first film was a good foundation for this series, a solid adaptation that did capture the heart of FNAF, but had area for improvement. But with this new trailer, dude, the budget bump is real. The sets, the costumes, the cinematography, everything is noticeably better. And the artists once again crushed it on the animatronic designs. Fun fact, the people who made those animatronics are actually the fine folks over at the Jim Henson Creature Shop. You probably know them best for their work on stuff like Sesame Street, and the Muppets, and like the head that Deadmau5 used to wear, yeah, like the musician. We've been tracking this film every step of the way. We speculated about it using the first movie and its novelization. We tried to work out the entire plot after Scott released some maybe real, maybe fake script pages during the anniversary event, and we decoded the first teaser earlier this year. And now that we have this new full trailer, I want to continue the trend. I want to take everything we've seen until now and see if this trailer shines through.
Probably won't get that far tonight. We'll get somewhere. Ooh, that could be dangerous. Be right back. Ta-da! God, am I making more bad life choices? shit's soft. What else can I add to it? I suppose I can toss you in. I don't think it matters, but clay, I don't think that's clay. No fuzzies. You're annoying.
New light on that information. What else does this trailer tell us? What can we learn about the story of this new movie from the split-second shots and mysterious voiceover? Honestly, this is some of my favorite parts of theorizing. This new trailer both confirms and debunks some of our previous theories, which I think is awesome. They're keeping us on our toes, keeping us guessing, and we as a theorist community can have some real fun again, just digging into movie prediction.
With Rosetta Stone, language learning reflects the way we all first learn a language. It gives you a deeper, more natural experience that's truly immersive. Choose topics by interest or language level, and learn through bite-sized, highly visual lessons. As you practice
our toes, keeping us guessing, and we as a theorist community can have some real fun again, just digging into movie predictions. And real talk, but I think that this trailer legitimately changed where I thought this movie franchise was headed. So put on your Freddy masks and crank that music box, loyal theorists. We're jump scaring into this trailer. So going in here, I'm going to be trying to put these scenes together by trying to sort them into either where they go in the movie or by their narrative purpose. So cool? Cool. The first section of the trailer I want to cover involves what I'm going to call the Freddy Fazbear break-in. And it actually starts with the very first shot, where we get this blue van driving down a street during a rainy night. The license plate here reads out, "I see dead people," a fun little reference to The Sixth Sense. I see dead people. But another fun reference? Well, the van is basically identical to the one we see in Security Breach and in Secret of the Mimic. Now, I don't think that's really significant or anything like that. Secret of the Mimic takes place in the 70s, Security Breach in the 2020s, and we're pretty sure these movies are set in the early to mid-2000s, so it's just a fun reference. Anyway, we then see a group of characters led by a woman played by actress McKenna Grace step out of the van with flashlights, clearly looking to break into Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. She explains that this was the original Freddy's location, while the one we saw in the first film was a franchise location. That basically was an expansion of that brand. Funnily enough, this actually lines up with ancient theories we had about FNAF 2's restaurant being the original location all the way back when that game first released. That got jumbled by retcon after retcon, and it became really unclear over the years, but I guess this is Scott trying to really clean up the lore with the movieverse. And side note, but it's also really funny to me that McKenna Grace played a big part in the most recent Ghostbusters movie, and now she's here hunting ghosts elsewhere. Yeah, while I previously speculated that these characters might be some sort of school bullies that would be killed by the animatronics during the climax of the movie, that clearly isn't the case. I've seen it reported online that they're instead paranormal investigators, and though I haven't found a primary source confirming this, that does seem pretty on point to me. As an avid fan of cryptids, the paranormal and ghost hunting contents, they have all the sort of gear you'd expect. And it's also fun to see a professional Hollywood studio's take on this. Like, we see one of the men here holding a video camera, filming everything inside of the restaurant, while McKenna Grace's character is holding an audio recorder. Obviously, you'd want a video camera to capture evidence of ghosts and such, and it's commonly believed that audio recording equipment like this can more easily pick up noises from ghosts or other paranormal entities when they try to communicate than the human ear. This is probably why McKenna Grace asks, "Did you guys hear that?" And the others question what she's even talking about. It looks like she's the only one listening through headphones here, so she's probably the only one hearing stuff only picked up by the audio recorder. There's also some faint music box melody playing in the background here during this bit, which will become quite relevant in just a moment. That being said, I also don't see other equipment you typically find for these sort of ghost hunting crews. They don't have a spectrometer, an EMF meter, a thermal temperature reader, or even a Microsoft Kinect. Yeah, that piece of garbage is being used in ghost hunting now. Though, if these films are supposed to be set in the early to mid-2000s, then I guess it would make sense that they wouldn't have a Kinect, since that wasn't out yet. Oh, and just because I wanted to mention this, I did actually try to identify what type of camera this guy was using to see if I could pinpoint a model and year it was released. Basically trying to catch the filmmakers using stuff that wouldn't have existed at the time. But I just couldn't do it. I even brought on our live action producers and Tom, who's had experience working with cameras and TV, and they called this camera, quote, painfully generic. So, yeah. They even, gaffed over the brand name on the camera. They put tape over it so you couldn't see it. You gotta make sure you're not giving anyone an unintentional brand deal, huh? Speaking of which, does this look familiar? Well, you need Gamer Subs. Gamer Subs GG energy drinks have vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, and no sugar. To get the energy you need to marathon watch Film Theory and get a discount, visit gamersubs.gg/Film Theory and use code Film Theory to get 10% off Gamer Subs today. Anyway, inside of the restaurant, we see a lot of FNAF imagery you would expect. We get a look at Freddy art on the floor, old merch in the form of plushies, a creepy shot of a worn-down Balloon Boy statue, though notably not the animatronic Balloon Boy we saw in the first teaser, and most interestingly to me, a pirate ship. This wasn't really a thing in the FNAF 2 game, and if anything, this reminds me way more of the Pirate Cove area you could find in Security Breach. I'm not sure if that's going to end up meaning something significant for this movie, or if this is just another case of the film series being a giant blending of the most iconic parts of FNAF's imagery. Either way, the pirate ship is also in a big ball pit. Makes me wonder if this one also allows for time travel. Well, probably not, but I still can't believe that that's a real thing and been a significant part of FNAF lore and come back up in recent games. Just never change FNAF. Elsewhere, we also get our first look at a sort of cave or tunnel looking area with water going through the tunnel. This is probably part of some boat attraction and is used for some pretty effective scares elsewhere in the trailer, but the thing I wanted to point out most here, well, if you look pretty closely at the walls and maybe up the brightness a bit, you'll see a bunch of figurines or plushies of the puppet. So this makes me wonder, is this part of the puppet's attraction, or is there some weird puppet cult going on here with all these plushies getting placed throughout the restaurant? This might also be a nod to the Night Marionette from Security Breach, who had plushies everywhere throughout the Pizzaplex, but that was more of an Easter egg the community never really cracked or got a consensus on, but it's weird nonetheless. Now, speaking of the puppet, this is where we really start to get into the meat of the trailer. McKenna Grace's character finds a stairwell leading into a weird sub-basement area where she finds a giant present-looking box. There are gears all over the wall which start to spin, eventually opening the box as McKenna Grace looks up in terror. This, of course, is where the puppet animatronic comes into play.
I don't know if I should use the grinding wheel with the fucking weather the way it is. One spark. I do have a fire extinguisher. Just wrap it around. It's not going to be that big of a deal. See, it's just done. Let's go do something stupid. I don't know if I can even hook this up in here. I guess I don't gotta worry about cat poop anymore. Knowing him, he's left me a little turd somewhere. That's what we're after, right there. There's the horse. See how long the battery runs out. That's there. I don't have my earplugs. I haven't used this since before COVID, so. Something like that. Parts and pieces. Doing something stupid. Do I have anything to cover my ears with? No. So cover the rest of your fucking face, you goddamn idiot. do with those. I shouldn't be wearing Crocs when I do this. There we go. And nothing is burning. I don't think so. I really should check that fire extinguisher, make sure it's still kosher. Good. Fabulous. Ow. Hot. Ow. Hot. Fucker. I missed one. Fuck you. Stay there. There we go. Let me shut off those lights. Let's try that again. Oh, hang on. Do-do-do-do-do.
Linda, leave a message. Thank you.
At the tone, please record your message. When finished, you may hang up or press pound for more options. To leave a callback number that you can be reached at, press 1. Please leave your message after the tone. Press pound when complete.
It's your daughter. Give me a call. Love you. Bye. I'm okay. I'm okay. Just say it.
Up in terror. This, of course, is where the puppet animatronic comes into play here in the movie, and honestly, this setup is terrifying. Previously, we thought that this scene was going to be happening in the school as part of the climax, but clearly not, and this is way better. These investigators are taking the same role as Max and the hooligans who broke into the pizzeria in FNAF 1, showing off how dangerous these animatronics can be, and that they can leave the restaurant, probably at the end of Act 1 or the middle of Act 2. McKenna Grace is getting taken out by the puppet here, and the other members of her ghost hunting crew are picked off one by the rest of the animatronics. And from the brief shot we get of Mangle on top of the Vanisage driving away, it looks like at least one of the investigators will also briefly get away from the pizzeria before they're chased down and killed. It's brutal stuff, but necessary setup for this sort of horror film. Like, you gotta have stakes for the main characters, know what I mean? So the next big set of scenes from this trailer are what I'm gonna call the home life section, involving Mike, Abby, and Vanessa just trying to live their best lives. For example, we get a sequence of Mike and Vanessa out at dinner. This is clearly a pretty nice restaurant, or maybe just an Olive Garden, it's kind of hard to tell. But either way, this is really giving the energy of a romantic date to me. Vanessa wonders if this is what being normal feels like, and Mike comments that they're both doing fine. They've been through a lot. And you know what? I agree. Not everyone gets stabbed by their serial killer dad. That's incredibly traumatic, and it looks like Vanessa is feeling some PTSD because of it. There's another shot of Vanessa laying on stabbed her in the previous movie. She's probably thinking about that here, and given the lighting and color of the scene, it looks like it's connected to that cool shot from the first teaser of Afton's spirit at the end of the hallway with all of the doors magically swinging open. I'm going to guess that this is part of a dream sequence and that she's actually having recurring nightmares about Afton. There's another scene where Vanessa looks exhausted as Springtrap's hand comes in and grabs her shoulder. Very obviously a CGI arm too. This seems directly connected with the scene from the first teaser of Vanessa pulling a gun, so she's probably hallucinating her father attacking her again and pulled a gun only to find nothing there. Oh, and just before we move on from Springtrap, there's another great scene of him running down a hallway. Again, this feels like a dream to me. I don't really think that Afton's going to play a huge role in this particular story, but they probably wanted Matthew Lillard back for the name recognition and to set him up as the main antagonist for whatever they're going to do for FNAF 3. Back to the restaurant, Vanessa asks about Abby, and Mike says that she has good days and then days where she misses her ghostly friends. So right off the bat, that's interesting because the way this conversation is framed implies that Vanessa hasn't seen or talked to Mike and Abby for a while. Otherwise, why would she be asking about how Abby's doing? So this means that she and the Schmidts sort of went their separate ways for a bit, or that this isn't long after she got out of the hospital. We then see a shot of Abby building a little toy animatronic. This is a fun nod to the full-size toy
And then we're
animatronics
back to my
elsewhere
regularly
in the
scheduled
film.
watch.
And it's also a bit of supporting evidence for our previous theory that someone has come in and bought the Freddy IP. I mean, Afton doesn't really seem like the type to be making deals with, like, Mattel or Hasbro to make these sorts of toys, and Abby certainly didn't build this and, like, cast the Chica shell out of plastic herself. Someone made and sold that toy. We also see that Abby still draws the animatronics a lot. I quite like that there's this cute little recreation of the scene where they all built, like, the fort and then laid on the ground inside of it together from the first movie. There's also a much darker drawing here of Abby along with either Golden Freddy or Original Freddy. It's kind of hard to tell, like the color's a little ambiguous, it is both ears, but it's also recreating a scene with Golden Freddy. Either way, this drawing is like evil looking.
How you doing tonight?
Implying that she has darker memories of that particular animatronic than she's letting on. But also interesting here is that these other drawings are of the
The
toy
YouTube algorithm has abandoned me again. I was doing good for a couple of days there. A whole week I was getting shit and hits.
The pirate ship we talked about earlier. So
again.
there are a couple of possibilities here. Either Abby has already visited the new location from this movie, and this scene is from later in the movie after she's drawn to the new animatronics, or they're somehow visiting her and invading her dream games or something like that, trying to lure her to the new pizzeria. At this point, I don't really think we have enough information to outright say what's going on, but given the new animatronics seem to need the fast talker to communicate with Abby, I'm gonna guess the former option for now. Vanessa then says that
this story that you're gonna fix those animatronics is only giving her false hope.
this has a couple of interesting implications. First of all, are the animatronics broken? Did something happen? The restaurant from the first movie did kind of collapse as Afton was defeated, but most of the structure remained intact, and we didn't really see any of the animatronics get hurt or broken. So maybe, like, someone broke in and damaged them, or they're not functioning. For a reason? Like, is Afton's spirit somehow hurting them in some other way? Or perhaps, as we previously speculated, whomever bought the FNAF range and taken the parts from the FNAF 1 animatronics and put them in the toy animatronics. Maybe that's why they're broken. Either way, we know that Mike is trying to fix them, but either can't or is pretending that he can. It's a fun conflict setup, which leads to our third big group of scenes, the main characters and their interactions with the new animatronics. It starts here with Abby trying to talk with her ghostly friends through the fast talker's toy.
Can any of you hear me?
At first she gets no answer, but later, at night, the fast talker lights up in Abby's room. And like, we know this is Abby's room, just look at the drawings on the wall. And we do hear a voice coming through.
I will show you.
Minister Barb Adams, home support workers need you. We know you can hear us. Thousands have sent letters and thousands more are engaged in our campaign. But still, Nova Scotia's home care system is collapsing.
Through.
I will show you the way.
Just to get this out of the way, it looks like Mike and Abby may have moved into another house. They're fixing it out. At least that's what's implied here, because this house here in the trailer is not the same one from the first film. Anyway, the spirits are now communicating through the fast talker, and this directly connects with the shots we see of Abby arriving at the sister location from both this trailer and the first teaser. But something else big here, the voice says, Come find us. Remember, at the very end of the credits of the first movie, we hear the letters spelling out, Come find me, all while the puppet's music box is
Mama.
playing. That implied that the puppet was asking Mike and
I
Abby
did.
to
You didn't pick up.
It's probably outdoors and I couldn't find the phone.
Oh no, but you found it now.
Yes, I did after.
Not a whole lot working on some octopus arms for plants because I'm out.
I find it very, very hot today.
I'm finding it absolutely miserable with this heat.
Yep, and I'm glad she wasn't here because then I've sat around most of the day.
She'd have learned how to swim today. She would have been that hot.
Yeah, it was, honestly. Boy, I'm telling you, we need water bad.
Yeah, you hear about those fires?
I heard about one.
Yeah, it's up in Bears Lake, I think.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I guess I did hear that they might have it under control, so that's good.
I hope so.
Everybody's kind of chomping at the bit because of them.
Yeah, I know. Who is we got the mosquitoes? Oh, okay.
You're their favorite flavor? Okay.
Oh, okay. Talk to you later, love you.
Good night, love you too. That was my mommy. Saying good night.
So, come find us.
Alright, I'm tired of FNAF. Let's see what else I can listen to. Keith eats every Pop-Tart. Sure.
This is vanilla. But is it yummy?
A live stream, streaming a live stream just for background music. Sounds good.
Crust. Straight over. The crust is nice. The crunch is good. That's yummy. Albeit simple. New. What's up next? Frosted cinnamon roll. Frosted cinnamon roll. Who wants a cinnamon roll that's not frosted? Nobody wants that. You have to have it frosted. This looks like it's almost like the other cookie that we saw earlier on the lemon blueberry one. It looks a lot like that. Let's see if it tastes like it. We'll try cold first. The frosted cinnamon roll. Okay. Oh yeah. Yeah. Whoa. Yeah, it's the cinnamon roll goo. It's the goo in the middle of the cinnamon roll. If you like the brown sugar cinnamon, wait till you have this.
Oh, I need it.
Because this is like that, but gooier, thicker, more cinnamony, almost a butteriness to it. It is It is good.
Oh my goodness.
Let's have it hot. Oh, yeah, look at, I don't, see if you can get a close-up of this. Because the goo actually did sort of, like, have a little bit of a strand. Are we seeing it? Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's good. That is liquid cinnamon sugar. That is like a cinnamon sugar, thick, simple syrup in the middle of a Pop-Tart. It is exactly like the flavor inside of a cinnamon roll. They nailed that. That's excellent. That's the best new flavor. Easy.
Oh my gosh. We still have a lot to go.
We have it. From Galen, I quote, "Oh my gosh, whoa." Oh my gosh, whoa, people. How many likes do we have on TikTok?
Yeah, I don't care. Let's see. Let's do anime recap. So I ain't got time to watch shit anymore, so.
They thought he was useless, so he was kicked out of the party.
There we go.
But his healing magic was so advanced that they didn't even know they were being healed.
I'd like to listen to
And everything
music,
falls apart after he
but that's a
leaves.
no-no.
The story begins in the kingdom of Herzith, where healers are highly regarded for their contributions to expanding the nation. The Royal Hospital is filled with healers who come to learn new techniques, and it's also where they get their license to start their journey. We meet a boy named Zenos, as he heals a man, but we learn he never received a formal education, so he doesn't have a license. As the man leaves, Zenos' assistant Lily reminds him he has to make a house call, and she tells him she'll have dinner ready for when he gets back. As he goes out, he sees a girl that's in pain, and a man named Forbes arrives, asking her where he's been. She tells him she has a stomach ache, so she went to a hospital, but they didn't see her because she doesn't have money. Forbes doesn't care.
I put a spell on you.
Ooh.
Because you're mine.
Okay, hurry up. I haven't got time to listen to the whole thing. I'll look at it later. Fire's down quite a bit at Costco. Alright. It's not what I need, not what I wanted. Back to here.
Care, reminding her that she's just a slave, and he takes her to a graveyard. As he throws her down, a black mist appears and enters her body, but he kicks her away, telling her he'll feed her if she finds anything valuable. But as he's about to leave, she suddenly attacks him with her claws, causing him to bleed. He tries to run away from her, but he runs into Zenos and asks him for help. He explains that his slave attacked him, so he needs to get to a hospital, promising to pay Zenos if he takes care of her. She starts throwing rocks at him, but he easily dodges all of them, and Forbes is impressed. He tells Zenos to eliminate her, but he refuses because his goal is to save lives. Forbes notes that Zenos could be killed if he doesn't drop his nonsense, but he's shocked as Zenos destroys a huge rock with his bare hands. He's impressed by the girl's speed, but he uses his magic to send her flying into a house, telling her to calm down. But as he gets close to her, he realizes that she's possessed by a ghost, so he uses his magic to set her free. Forbes is impressed by his powers and tells Zenos to heal him, but he explains that he's off duty. Forbes demands that he heal him immediately, so Zenos notes that it will cost him extra, but Forbes doesn't care and throws him a bag of coins. He tells Forbes it isn't enough, which annoys him, and he notes that he's already paying above the market rate, but Zenos reveals that he's an underground healer without a license. He asks to take the girl as his payment, and Forbes tells him he can have her, so he uses his healing magic to save him. Meanwhile at the house, the resident ghost Camilla appears, and she's excited for the food, but Lily tells her it's not ready yet. They're joined by a woman named Sophia, who asks for Zenos, but Lily tells her that he's out, so she decides to wait for him. Another girl named Linda arrives, and Sophia tells her to go back, since she's already Zenos' patient for today, but Linda decides to stay anyway. An orc girl named Lo comes bursting through the door, and Lily tells her she can join the others, but only after she fixes the door. She asks everyone if they'll stay for dinner, and Lo notes that it's the only reason why she's there, while the other girls also decide to stay. Lily goes to put away the laundry, but as she leaves, Lo and Linda taste what she's making, and they're amazed by how good it is. They can't stop themselves from eating, so Sophia warns them that Lily will get angry at them, but after smelling the food, she also can't resist. They end up eating everything, and they start to blame each other, but when Lily returns, she asks them to explain what happened. So Sophia mentions how they couldn't stop themselves from eating her food. They end up arguing with each other about who Zenos likes the most, but Lily tells them not to fight, because it will make him angry.
Monster!
She
Thank
wishes
you.
they could all enjoy a meal together, so they apologize and offer to
I've
help
got,
them remake dinner, but she
whatchamacallit.
reveals that she's out of ingredients.
I got the ones I started yesterday. I just put their top coat on, so they're just waiting to dry, and I still got quite a few teeth left, so I'll be making more little hangry monsters when I get my next pack of toys. I need to throw it up on Facebook that I'm looking for more monsters to make.
Explains that he just bought her. He tells her to strip because he needs to make sure she's in perfect condition, but as she takes off her clothes, he sees what's causing her stomachache. So he immediately heals her, and she's amazed by his powers, but he thinks he's nothing special. She thanks him for curing her, and introduces herself as Teal, but he notes that she needs to work to pay him back, and she agrees to do anything for him, so he tells her to find herbs for him. After that, he notes that she did her job, so she doesn't owe him anymore, which surprises her, telling him all she did was find a few leaves. But he mentions that they have the same value as what he did for her, and he tears up the slave contract, but she has no idea what she'll do next. She promises to tell him once she finds out what she wants to do with her life, and he notes that if she gets hurt, she can ask him for help, but mentions that his healing isn't free. Zenos returns home, but Lily mentions that dinner isn't ready because the other girls arrived with the ingredients. Camilla senses that he met another girl, but he tells her to stop teasing him, and Lily is happy to see they have what she needs, but she decides to make tea for everyone first. We see that Zenos used to be part of an adventuring party, but the leader Aston gives him a gold coin, telling him he'll never earn one in his life. He tells Zenos he hasn't been contributing anything to the party, so they don't need him anymore, but he reminds Aston that he was the one who invited him. They all start laughing, and Aston notes that he can never reject someone useful, but he wouldn't feel a thing if Zenos died. He mentions that their party has become famous, so they'll need to perform in front of nobles, telling Zenos they can't have him on the team. But he reminds them that it was only possible because of his magic, and Aston notes that the gold coin is his parting gift, warning him to never tell anyone he was in their party. Meanwhile, we see a man trying to kidnap Lily, so she kicks him and tries to get away, but he shoots her leg with an arrow, and she falls to the ground. He tries to grab her, but she bites him, and he ends up stabbing her. Zenos arrives, asking them what's going on, but they tell him it's none of his business, because Lily belongs to them. To them. He buys her with the gold coin, and she wonders if she's about to die, but she's shocked as he instantly heals her. She thinks he must be a famous healer, but he mentions that he doesn't even have a license. She feels bad since he spent his money to save her, but he tells her she shouldn't worry about it, and asks about her home. But she mentions that she doesn't have one, so he decides to get her new clothes and feed her. At the restaurant, Lily wonders why he isn't eating anything, so he notes that he isn't hungry, but he really just doesn't have any money. A man named Zond arrives, and seeing that he's badly hurt, Zenos heals his wound, which surprises him. He gives Zenos some money as a reward, which gives him the idea to open a clinic, and Lily wants to help him, but he knows that running a clinic without a license is illegal, so he doesn't want to involve her. She reminds him that he bought her, so she'll always follow him, and seeing how determined she is, he decides to let her stay with him until he finds a safe place for her. After that, they head to an abandoned house, and Lily wonders why he chose such an area, so he mentions that he can't open a clinic in town without a license.
So how's everyone
Lily is scared
tonight?
to go inside, because she's heard about wraiths, and they can kill humans just by touching them. After checking out the house, Zenos thinks it's the perfect place to start the clinic, but Camilla suddenly appears in front of them, which scares Lily. She rushes towards them, but Zenos repels her with his spell, and reveals that he's killed hundreds of wraiths before. He apologizes to Camilla for disturbing her, and assures her that if she gives him the space to open the clinic, he won't cause any problems for her. So she becomes angry, and tries to attack him again, but she can't even reach him. She can't believe how powerful he is, and she summons minions to attack him, but he instantly defeats them. She wonders who he is, so he reveals that he's just an unlicensed healer, asking her to give him room for his clinic in a bedroom. So she tells him
If I make enough, then I won't have to make another batch of them till next year. That is the logic behind this.
he needs her to help with publicity, but he knows that if they advertise their clinic, the Royal Medical Institute will notice it. She thinks that if they do nothing, they won't get any customers, but Zahn suddenly visits them. We learn that Xenos was expecting him, because he knows that normal people don't get injuries from magic guns, which means he can't go to normal clinics. He asks him to look at his sister Sophia, who shows him her wound, and he realizes that she was hit with a magic gun with toxic effects. She wonders if he can heal her, but he notes that the best option is to cut off her arm before the toxins spread to her body. He demands 1 million coins for the procedure, so Sophia tells him about her reputation and asks him if he won't change the price. He realizes that she's one of the big shots leading the lizard people in the slums, and she robs crooked merchants so that she can return the money to her people. She tells him to convince her why she should pay him so much, so he mentions that he'll also regenerate her arm, telling her it's a difficult task. He notes that after being taken advantage of in the past, he refuses to work for free, so he doesn't care who she is, and he'll charge her according to the work he's putting in. But she doesn't understand how he can regenerate her arm, since normal healers can't do that, which surprises him. As Xenos begins the procedure, he cuts off her arm using a scalpel, and he uses his regeneration spell to regrow her arm. She's amazed by his skills, while Zond is shocked to see Camilla's head poking through the roof, but Xenos assures him that she doesn't have any bad intentions. After that, Lily makes tea, and Xenos wonders why she made 3 cups, so she notes that it's for Camilla. Lily is glad their business is booming, since plenty of lizard people have been coming to their clinic, but she wonders why they're always hurt. So Xenos explains that there are 3 main gangs in the slums, who are always fighting with each other. Linda suddenly arrives, and introduces herself as the leader of the Wolf Beast Skin Gang. He tells her the clinic is closed, but he'll still check if someone is seriously injured, and she notes that he's the one who's about to be hurt. She was confused that no matter how badly she beat up Sophia's gang, they always recovered quickly, but she found out it's because of Xenos. She tries to attack him with an axe, but it breaks as it hits his barrier, and she orders her men to attack him. But their attacks don't work against him, so she decides to destroy the clinic, but they're shocked as Camilla appears in front of them. She prepares to take them all out, but he calms her down, telling her the treatment room is for saving lives, so he can't allow her to kill anyone there. Linda is shocked that Camilla listened to him, and she thinks he's her master, so she and her men apologize to him. He tries to tell them it isn't true, but they don't respond to anything he says, and he realizes that they can't understand human language. The next day, an orc comes to the clinic, and we learn that he's working for Lo. But Xenos expected it, because he dealt with the lizard men and werewolves, so he knew the orcs would be coming as well. He asks the orc if Lo is a reasonable person, so he tells Xenos she's wise, and he hopes the orc is right about her. He thinks about how Sophia has been dropping off expensive gifts every day, while Linda is building a palace right next to him, because she wants to make up for her actions. He hopes he won't need to worry about Lo doing things like that, and he asks the orc why he didn't bring her with him, so he reveals that she can't move. Xenos goes to see Lo, and he asks her how she knows about him, so she reveals that he's famous in the slums. She asks him to tell her why she can't move from her seat, so he examines her body, and finds a mana stone in her stomach. She reveals that it will explode if she moves, and he wonders if someone slipped it into her food, but she explains that she mistook it for a rice ball and ate it. Xenos decides to leave, telling her she'll expel the mana stone on her own, but she reveals that there isn't much time left before it explodes. She explains that she isn't worried about herself, but her problem is that her men won't leave her side, and they're prepared to die for her. She wants to give all of their wealth to Xenos, because she heard that he treats children for free, which means he's a good person. She gives him the key to their treasure, but he uses a scalpel to open up her stomach and takes out the mana stone. She tells him to be careful, because it's about to explode, but she's shocked as he contains the explosion in his hand. She's surprised because if he didn't save her, he could have gotten all of their wealth, but he doesn't want more than what he works for, and she finds him interesting. She tells him to contact her if he needs anything, and she offers to provide security for his clinic, and wishes for them to stay away. After that, Xenos sees Lily sulking,
and she mentions that it's because the other girls keep visiting him recently. He doesn't understand why they're coming to his clinic even when they aren't injured, so he thinks they must be bored. But Camilla notes that they're into him, and they would probably start a war over him. Lily worries because she isn't as pretty as them, but Camilla tells her that all maidens in love are beautiful. He thinks they wouldn't fight each other for him, but he's shocked as they each come to the clinic and ask for his support, because they've decided to declare war on the other races. As they're about to start fighting, Xenos and Lily arrive at the battlefield, but he just tells them to fight until they're satisfied. They're glad they got his approval, so Sophia proposes that whoever wins the fight will get him, and everyone agrees to it. As the war begins, Sophia takes out her knives, and immediately goes after Linda, but she dodges Sophia's attacks. Lo rushes towards Sophia, but she gets out of the way, and Lo ends up smashing into the others. Everyone else starts attacking as well.
QuickBooks is great in terms of getting paid quick because I can access QuickBooks from my phone. So if we're at the beach, I can
attacking as well. But after fighting for the whole day, they realize that nobody's staying down, so Xenos reveals that he's been healing them. He tells them they can fight as long as they like, but he'll keep healing them since they're his patients, and he expects to be paid for it. They realize there's no point in fighting since no one will win, so they decide to end the war, and Lily asks Xenos why he stopped them. He mentions that his mentor told him a healer is third-rate if they only heal injuries, second-rate if they can completely heal a person, and first-rate if they can make the world a better place. He wants to improve the conditions in the slums, but he also knows he needs to keep the three factions around, since there is only patience. But Lily knows he's lying, because if everyone's on good terms with each other, there will be fewer patients for him to treat. She tells him she likes him, and he notes that he likes her as well, but she knows that he doesn't understand her true feelings for him. She asks him if he's really planning on charging them, and he mentions that he needs to be paid, since it wasn't easy healing them for so long. Meanwhile, a girl named Krishna meets with the division commander, who tells her about the rumors that the war between the three demi-human gangs is over. She finds it hard to believe, since they've been fighting for so long, but he thinks they can't ignore it, because it might be true. He explains how the kingdom prospers because of the hierarchy, where the rich take their anger out on the poor, who take out their frustration by fighting each other. But if they present a united front, they'll be a threat to the citizens. She still can't believe the gangs aren't fighting anymore, so he mentions that there are rumors that it's because of someone who acted as a mediator. But she thinks it's even more unbelievable that such a person exists, because it's hard to get the leaders of the slums to get along.
Crocs.
He notes that they still need
But we're
to
in
check
like the
it out,
backup
so he wants
Crocs
her
right
to
now.
investigate it and find the one responsible for the peace in the slums. At the clinic, Xenos sneezes, so Lo and Linda offer their bodies to warm him up, so Lily gets worried, and she runs away to make tea. He tells them to stay quiet as he heals Sophia, who mentions that she got injured while she was working, revealing that she usually targets special people to steal from. But the Royal Order of Knights is keeping a tight eye on her, so she was injured while fighting them. He wonders if the injuries she and Zahn got were also from the Royal Knights, so they tell him about Krishna, who hit Zahn with the magic gun. Camilla notes that it would be troublesome if they got her attention, since there are dangerous individuals in the clinic, but Xenos thinks the Royal Knights won't pay attention to him. Lily asks him what he would like to eat for lunch, but the others give her their requests, and he doesn't get to say anything. As they're eating, Camilla decides to rest, but she tells Xenos to remember that he's the only person in the capital who's capable of keeping the slum leaders in line. Meanwhile, Krishna arrives at the slums, and she's shocked to see that all the different races are living together. She asks one of the lizard men why they aren't fighting with each other, but he refuses to tell her anything, and he's about to leave, but she suddenly pulls out her gun. He sees Sophia walking past them, so he yells to help him, and Krishna immediately retreats, but she's surprised to see that Sophia's arm has completely healed. She gets lost while running away, and ends up going to the clinic, where she asks Xenos for directions. But she sees Lily, and suddenly shoots Xenos with smoke. Krishna reveals that she's working on a bigger case at the moment, but she has also been investigating the kidnapping of children, and she thinks Xenos is the culprit. But Lily tells her that he saved her, which makes her realize she jumped to conclusions, so she apologizes for her actions. She thinks that since he got hit by her bullet, he won't be waking up for a while, but she's shocked to see that he's completely fine. He tells her he used defensive magic, but she mentions that it shouldn't be enough to stop her gun, so she wonders if he's a grand sorcerer who has worked all his life on defensive magic. He tells her it isn't the case, but she thinks it's the only explanation, and notes that no one can deceive the eyes of the vice commander of the Royal Knights, which makes them realize who she is. Zenos puts up a signal to make sure no one comes to the clinic, while Krishna tells him how she came to the slums to capture an individual, but he wonders if she should be telling him such information. So she explains that she can't expect him to cooperate with her if she doesn't give him details, and he notes that he didn't agree to help her, but she tells him that every citizen must help the Royal Knights. She reveals that the person she's looking for is the mediator who ended the war between the three factions, which surprises him, and she reveals that no one in the slums told her anything. She thinks the mediator is a master at controlling people, thinking he must be evil, but Zenos notes that he might be trying to lay low. So she asks him if he knows who the person is, but he tells her it's just his instinct. She mentions that he might become a threat to the kingdom, but Lily tells her that the mediator just hates seeing people get hurt, so Krishna thinks she must know who he is. Zenos notes that Krishna should leave, since she's on an important mission, but she sees that he has an extra bed, so she decides to stay there. Lily makes tea for her, which ends up burning her mouth, while Lily sits in Zenos' lap and tells him to pat her head. Camilla turns invisible and starts to whisper in his ear, telling him Lily is jealous, so she's trying to show Krishna how close she is to him. She keeps trying to make Krishna jealous, but seeing that she doesn't care, Lily decides to use the secret move Camilla taught her. She grabs Zenos' face and notes that she won't let him sleep tonight, but she immediately falls asleep after saying it. After that, Krishna asks Zenos if a master healer can regenerate an arm, thinking it isn't possible for anyone except for a saint or a top-level healer. He wonders why she's asking such questions, so she tells him how she damaged Sophia's arm, but it's been completely healed.
Yep.
He asks her why she's against the people in the slums, so she reveals that her mother was killed there, and she mentions how her mother went there to feed people every day. But when someone killed her to steal her wedding ring, no one came to help her, which made Krishna decide to become a hero who delivered justice to criminals. She reveals that she's the youngest vice commander in the history of the Royal Knights, and she was given the nickname Iron Rose, which people think is because of her passion for her duty. But she thinks it's because of her face, since she hasn't been able to smile because her mother passed away. After Krishna leaves, Camilla tells Zenos he shouldn't pay attention to her, because her story isn't telling him she has seen worse since she's been living for 300 years. Zenos takes down the flag he put up to make sure no one came to the clinic, and Sophia arrives to get her injuries healed, but Krishna suddenly returns. They both take out their weapons, and Lily notes that Sophia got lost and ended up there, but Krishna asks Sophia what happened to her arm. She thinks it was the mediator who healed her, and she mentions how he's gathering up the criminals in the slums to threaten their innocent residents. But Sophia tells her that bad elements are present in every part of society, and she reveals that the human trafficking ring is being run by an aristocrat named Calendar. But Krishna finds it hard to believe, because he's passionate about educating orphan children. Sophia thinks the reason it's easy to deceive Krishna is because she only looks at things on the surface. But Sophia notes that the mediator doesn't care about how they look, and he would even heal Krishna if she were injured. Zenos tells her he's the mediator, but she refuses to believe him, thinking he isn't a master healer, since he specializes in defense. He tries to convince her he's telling the truth, but she doesn't believe him, and notes that he has sided with the demi-humans, so she leaves to find a new base. After that, Krishna meets with Calendar, and tells him that there's a group of thieves working in the area, so she needs to inspect the security of his manor to make sure he's safe. He shows her around, and she thinks she's just wasting her time, because there's nothing strange happening there. She asks Calendar if she can use his bathroom, and she continues to look around, thinking he has too much security for a person of his level.
Hello, how are you tonight?
At his level. She looks around and sees a well, and she goes to check it out, realizing there's a group of children being held there. She tells them she's a hero, and promises to save them, but Calendar suddenly shoots her from behind. He tells her she shouldn't be poking her nose in his business, and he prepares to end her life, but Zenos and Sophia arrive. He knows who Sophia is, and he thinks no one will care if he shoots her, but he suddenly shoots Zenos instead. He starts to laugh, since he thinks Zenos is dead, but as the dust settles, he's shocked to see that Zenos is completely fine. Calendar keeps shooting at him, but his shield protects him, and as Calendar tries to take out his other gun, he accidentally drops it and falls over. Xenos picks it up and points it at him, so he begs him to let him go, but Xenos refuses to spare him. So he starts apologizing to Krishna, but Xenos notes that he should be saying sorry to the children instead. He shoots Calendar, and Krishna wonders if he's dead, but Xenos mentions that the limiter was on, so he's probably still alive. She tells Xenos it's too late to save her, so he should report everything to the Royal Knights, but she's shocked as he heals her and regenerates her arm. She realizes that he really is the mediator, and she thinks a hero is someone perfect like him, but he notes that no one is perfect. He tells her she's still a hero to the children, and she realizes that even though she thought her mother was a victim, she was truly happy when she went to the slums to feed children. She starts to cry, and notes that even though her mother was flawed, she's still her hero. After they save the kids, Xenos and Sophia decide to leave, because the Royal Knights will be there soon, but Krishna stops and asks him why he saved her. He notes that it's because she still needs to pay for his bed, and he also has the charge of healing her to the bill, and she finds him amusing. We go back to when Aston found Xenos in the street, and he invites him to join him, but Xenos thinks that people from the slums can't become adventurers. Aston tells him his status doesn't matter if he has the skills, and he asks Xenos if he can do anything, so he mentions that he knows healing magic. Aston doesn't believe him, but he still takes him in, because he was really just looking for a slave. After that, we see Aston fight a wolf, and Xenos secretly heals his injuries, allowing him to use his sword to cut down the wolf, but he thinks Xenos is useless. So after firing him, he goes with the rest of the party to complete a job for a noble named Fennel, and they plan to finish it quickly, so that they can go back to drinking. They come across a group of magical creatures, so Aston tells another member named Guile to use defensive magic. He rushes towards the creatures, but one of them burns his arm, and he realizes that one of them is about to be eaten. So he tells the mage named Anders to use attack magic, but he's too scared to do anything, so Aston thinks about firing him as well. He tells Guile to hurry up with the defensive magic, so he reveals that he's already using it, but it doesn't seem to be working. They're forced to retreat, and Aston yells at everyone for struggling against rank B monsters, but Anders mentions that Aston didn't do anything either. Guile wonders if it was really Xenos who was healing them, and Aston notes that it isn't possible, but they still need a healer, so they hire a girl named Human before they return to the cave. She wonders why they need her help, even though they're famous for coming out of battles without a scratch, so he tells her a lot has happened. They ask her about their other member who was almost eaten, so she reveals that he can survive, but he won't be able to continue being an adventurer. Aston thinks it doesn't matter, because they don't need him in the party, telling everyone he wasn't strong enough. As they enter the cave, the beasts instantly shoot fireballs at them, and Anders ends up getting hit. Human mentions that he might die if a real healer doesn't take care of him, so they decide to retreat again, and Aston yells at Guile, because he thinks Guile wasn't using his defensive magic, but Human reveals that Anders would have died instantly if the magic hadn't been in place, and Aston tells her to heal him quickly. But she notes that he needs to be taken to a hospital, because even the high-level healers won't be able to help him in such an environment. Aston wonders if Xenos was really healing them, because they've been getting hurt ever since he left, but he tells himself it isn't possible. After that, Fennel's butler delivers a letter to Aston, telling him to never show his face again to his master. The butler mentions that if they had told them the job was too much, Fennel could have made other arrangements for his daughter's birthday. But Aston couldn't complete the quest, so Fennel couldn't give anything to her. Aston tries to pin the blame on Xenos, but he realizes that he never officially told anyone that Xenos was a member of their party. He asks the butler to give him a chance, and he notes that they plan to hire new members, so they won't let him down. But Guile thinks it's a bad idea, because they don't have a plan, but Aston mentions that he'll bring Xenos back. As they head to the slums, Guile wonders how they'll find Xenos, and Aston plans to hire the 3 demi-human leaders to help them. He goes to Sophia first, but she starts laughing after realizing he's the one who kicked Xenos out of his party, and she tells him to go home, because Xenos has more important things to do. So Aston becomes angry, but he decides to retreat, because he knows that he's no match for her. After that, he goes to Linda and Lo, who give him the same response, and Lo warns him that the orcs will punish him if he bothers Xenos. Aston thinks they must be talking about another person with the same name, but he sees Zenos with Lily, so he stops them, and Zenos is surprised to see him there. But he notes that he's busy and decides to leave, so Aston tells him he came to find him, telling him to return to his party, but Zenos refuses his offer. He tells Aston that if he's that desperate, he'll join them on a quest when he has free time, but he expects to be paid for his services. Aston tells him not to act high and mighty, because he still doesn't have a place in the slums, but he's surprised as people on the street come up to Zenos and start thanking him. Aston reminds him how he took him in, and gave him a place in the world, but Zenos doesn't care and decides to leave, which makes him angry. He tries to attack Zenos from behind, but Krishna shoots him, and Zenos wonders what she's doing there. So she explains that she came to meet him, but he notes that he doesn't live there, so she mentions she was lost.
Hey, I'm saving big with TD Insurance for being a claims-free hybrid driving university grad.
Why, Dave? You should have your own jingle.
TD Insurance, because he's a claims-free hybrid driving university grad and signed up online. It's Dave. You can totally save, just not exactly like Dave.
With over 30 ways to save, real value starts with TD Insurance. TD. Ready for you.
Lost. She decides to arrest Aston, but he swears it was Guile who made him do it and runs away. At the clinic, Zenos meets with the others, who tell him how Aston talked to all of them, so they sent their men to spy on him, but they lost him after he ran away. Lily thinks he might have gone home, but Sophia mentions that he could have gone to the Underground Guild, because they accept any job if the price is right. Camilla thinks his financial situation must be bad, since he was looking for Zenos, which means he can't hire anyone from the Underground Guild. But Sophia reveals that there's a person called the Guide, who accepts jobs on specific conditions, even if he doesn't get paid. At night, Lily sees that Zenos is still awake, so she makes him tea and pats his head, because he always takes care of her. After she falls asleep, Camilla asks Zenos if he's worked up because of his interaction with Aston, and he mentions that she's a nice person since she's worried about him. She asks him how he learned healing magic while he was in the slums, so he reveals that it all started when he tried to revive a corpse, which shocks her since it's forbidden magic. She reveals that when she was alive, people used sorcery to create golems, which worked endlessly since they didn't feel pain. The ground suddenly starts shaking, and she goes to check it out, but she's shocked to see a golem destroying the slums. We see that the golem was created by the Guide, on the request of someone who wants to hurt Zenos, and he thinks it's also the perfect way to test his creation. Zenos and Camilla go to the slums, and the three leaders also arrive, revealing that the golem hurt their people. They wonder what it is, so Zenos explains that it's an artificial life form, but the magic to make it has been lost for a long time. He wonders if anyone knows where it came from, and Lo reveals that one of her works saw it coming from deeper in the slums, which makes him wonder if it's the work of the Underground Guild. But he knows that it isn't the time to think about that, and he tells everyone to gather all the injured in one place. Meanwhile, the Guide watches the golem from afar, and he thinks that it can still be improved, but he believes it should be able to kill Zenos, wondering how he'll act as the people close to him die. Zenos keeps healing everyone, but he's annoyed because he isn't getting paid for it, and he's also worried about Lily. The Guide finds him impressive, realizing he's an excellent healer, but he knows that nothing matters until they can stop the golem. Zenos manages to heal everyone, and he hopes that the golem will just leave, but Camilla mentions that it won't go away until it has fulfilled its order. She thinks something's wrong, because the high-purity magic stone that forms the core of the golems is only found on the southernmost continent, where the Demon Lord's castle was located. She adds that the stone should have been used up during the Man-Fiend War, and the systems for black magic were lost a long time ago. The other ingredients to make a golem are also difficult to acquire, so she doesn't understand who's behind it, but Zenos notes that he needs to stop it. The others decide to join him, and he asks Camilla how to defeat it, so she mentions that they need to destroy the magic stone that makes up its core. So he tells the others to fight the golem, while he supports them with his magic. They rush towards it and attack its legs, causing it to fall to the ground, but it immediately regenerates. It sends Linda flying through the houses, but she's completely fine thanks to Zenos' healing. He tells himself to remember that he needs to be close to them, because the farther away he is, the weaker his magic becomes. He also knows that he can't use different types of magic at the same time, so he needs to use them according to the situation. After seeing the golem fight, Xenos comes up with an idea, and he tells the others to attack its legs, but as they follow his orders, they see that it's about to fall on a kid. He rushes to save her, but the golem makes sure it doesn't crush her, and Camilla is shocked seeing this, because it isn't supposed to have free will. So Xenos scans it, realizing the magic stone is in its left chest, and he sees that Aston is inside it. Meanwhile, the guide mentions that the best way to create life is to combine a human being with a magic stone, so that they will form a new core. He thinks Aston was the best choice, because he only had negative emotions, and he wonders how Xenos will finish the fight, because the only way to win is to kill Aston. Xenos tells everyone else to leave, but they assure him they can still fight, and he remembers how his teacher told him that healers shouldn't fight on the front lines. But he notes that he's the only one who can finish the fight, so everyone else decides to trust him. After they leave, Xenos thinks it's odd that someone as selfish as Aston just saved a kid, and he remembers Guile, who told him the reason why Aston is obsessed with power and money. We learn that it's because his sister died, since he didn't have money to buy medicine for her, and he always thought it was weird that Aston knew Xenos didn't have a place in the world. But he realizes that it's because Aston is just like him, and the golem attacks him, but he enlarges his scalpel to cut off its arm, and opens up its chest. He sees Aston, but tells him it's the last time they'll be seeing each other, and he attacks him with his scalpel. The guide is disappointed, since he didn't hesitate to kill Aston, but he's shocked as he sees Xenos cutting out the magic stone from Aston's body, while healing him at the same time. He can't believe Xenos is still capable of doing that, because he just healed hundreds of people, and supported his friends who fought the golem. Aston wonders why Xenos saved him, so he explains that he needs Aston to tell him who's behind everything, because he's going to make them pay him for all the work he's done. He adds that even though Aston is a bad person, he still pulled him out of the slums, and gave him the gold coin, which led to him saving Lily and opening the clinic. But he notes that the biggest reason why he's saving Aston is because he needs to do his job as a healer. Xenos destroys the magic stone, and Aston mentions that he feels sick, because he now realizes how amazing Xenos is. He understands that their party only became successful because he was supporting them, and he wonders if Xenos is taking revenge on him by making him live after he lost everything. But Xenos notes that he didn't think so far ahead, and Aston apologizes for everything he's done, but Xenos tells him to get up because he can't hit him while he's down.
Class limbs need to be back. Anybody want to count these? I'm too fucking lazy.
We tried
4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17, 37. Not bad.
With IXL, not only
Don't care.
Xenos
I'll
notes that he
try it.
finally has
See
the
if I can
chance
put
to
another
get his
cut on
revenge,
those.
and after boosting his fist with magic, he completely blows him away. When Aston later wakes up, Krishna arrests him, telling him Xenos told her everything that happened. She notes that Xenos took his sword to pay for the damage he caused, so he realizes that he lost everything, but she adds that Xenos left him a gold coin. She mentions that Xenos doesn't want to work with him again, and he recalls the moment he kicked Xenos out of the party, so he regrets everything. The others see how tired Xenos is, and even though he tells them to rest, they decide to help him, and make sure he gets home. As they arrive at the clinic, Camilla notes that she's disappointed that Xenos survived, because she was looking forward to having a place to herself again. But Lily reveals that she was so worried that she was floating all over the house, so she becomes embarrassed. Lily notes that she was also worried when Camilla told her the situation, but she knew Xenos would return, and she welcomes him home. Krishna reveals that they've investigated the golem attack, and they discovered that the guide is behind it, so Xenos notes that he'll remember, since he still needs to pay for the damage he caused. Sophia mentions that she also looked into him, telling everyone he's always alone, and he just started working in the underground guild. Krishna notes that he erased his trail, but the leaders think he'll be back, thinking he's already planned his next move. But she tells them to stop speculating, and they start arguing with her. So Xenos tells them to calm down, and pushes them out of his clinic, telling them they aren't allowed to fight there. After that, Lily notices that Xenos is tired, and she's about to invite him to go to the hot spring, but Sophia suddenly bursts through the door and beats her to it. He agrees to go with her, and she notes that she's looking forward to it, but the other girls arrive one after the other, and they all invite him to go to the hot spring. He decides why they're so obsessed with hot springs, asking Lily what she wanted to talk about, but she tells him to forget about it. Camilla notes that she enjoys seeing the girls fighting over him, but she mentions that she hasn't been to a hot spring for a long time, so she decides to join them. We see Zenos in the men's bath, but Sophia suddenly joins him, telling him nobody will disturb them, because she put up a sign which mentions that the bath is being cleaned. She notes that she never expected everyone to get along, telling him he might someday change the world, but he wonders why she's getting closer. She reveals that she was talking to him to distract him, and she tries to grab him, but Linda joins them and lunges at Zenos. But Sophia stops her, and they start fighting over him. Lola emerges from the water, revealing that she was waiting for Zenos, and she joins the fight, but Krishna also appears, telling the girls they shouldn't be in the men's bath. But they know that she's also there for Zenos, so they start ganging up on her, but he becomes angry since he can't relax, and he tells them to go back to their own bath. We see Human in the women's bath, and she's surprised to see the girls, wondering how such a mixed group came together. Lois starts boasting about her assets, and we see that Lily is jealous, revealing that she lacks confidence because she has a flat chest. But she's happy to see
I can
that
tell
Human
this
is
manga
just
was
like
written
her.
by a man.
Camilla notes that bigger isn't always better, telling her Zenos might prefer smaller chests, but she wonders why Camilla is transparent. Human realizes she's a ghost, and she prepares to exorcise her, so she quickly flies away. Human looks around, realizing that the other girls are relaxing, so she wonders if she was just imagining things. After that, Zenos has dinner with the girls, but he realizes that Krishna isn't sitting with them, and she explains that she doesn't want to be seen with demi-humans, since she's a royal knight. Lily goes to sleep, and Zenos talks to Camilla, telling her he wasn't able to enjoy his meal, because the girls got drunk. He wonders how Camilla was able to get there, because he knows that she shouldn't be out in the sun, so she reveals that she possessed Lily's staff, telling him she can do it since she's attached to it. He wonders if it belonged to her when she was still alive, but she tells him she can't remember, and he realizes that she doesn't like talking about her past. The next day, everyone hears an explosion, so Human heads to the kitchen, where she realizes that the chef's arm has been burned. She uses her powers to heal him, but notes that first aid is the best she can do, thinking he'll never be able to use his arm again. But Zenos suddenly appears, realizing the man is injured, and Human notes that he needs to go to the Royal Hospital, where the healers can use advanced spells to help him recover. But Zenos thinks he doesn't need it, and Lily asks him what happened, so he explains that it's just a kitchen fire. He notes that they need to leave, but he reveals that he enjoyed the food last night, so he decides to heal the man for free. He immediately recovers, and Human can't believe his arm has been completely healed, realizing Zenos is built different. Human reports to her superior named Becker, and tells him about Zenos, so he asks her if she remembers anything about him. She describes his appearance, and Becker decides to look for him, thinking he must live in the slums, because he doesn't have an official registration. After that, we see Becker in the clinic, as a demi-human notes that he's in terrible condition. Zenos checks his lungs, and he realizes that Becker has the red lung disease, which has killed countless people in the past. He tells everyone to stay back, because it's highly contagious, but he wonders why Becker has it, since it's already been wiped out thanks to a cure. Becker is impressed by his diagnosis, and he introduces himself as an elite healer from the Royal Hospital, but Zenos wonders if he really has the red lung disease. Human joins them, telling Becker he's reckless, because he made himself sick so that he can meet Zenos. He reveals that he took a drug he developed, which gives him symptoms similar to the red lung disease, but he assures everyone he won't die, because he has already taken the antidote. Human reveals that he invented the cure for several diseases, including the red lung, so he was granted the special rank of elite healer. He asks Zenos about his coat, so he reveals that it belonged to his master, and they ask for his name, but Zenos notes that he doesn't know. Becker invites him to work at the Royal Hospital, telling him they need his help to solve a problem, but the girls suddenly arrive, revealing that they went there because they saw a red flag outside. He realizes Camilla put it out, because she noticed that something was wrong, and the girls tell Becker to leave. But he decides to change his approach, telling Zenos to consider it a commission, and he agrees to work with the Royal Hospital. Sophia questions his decision, but he explains that he needs them on his side, and he recalls that they saved countless lives in the slums by distributing the cure for red lung without asking for payment. The leaders realize they're good people, and Zenos wonders if Becker knows his master, so he promises to tell Zenos everything if he comes to the Royal Hospital. He notes that he'll help Zenos live a peaceful life once their problem is solved, and he officially welcomes him to their group. Zenos reaches the Royal Hospital, and Becker invites him to his office, where he tells him about his mission. He notes that he needs Zenos' help to collect information about the people who have gone missing, revealing that he's now a special research student, so he can attend the programs in the hospital. Becker explains that he'll be operating as a healer who has returned from abroad, and tells him not to worry about people finding out his identity, because he has an elite healer vouching for him. Zenos heads to his dorm, and he's surprised to see Lily, so Human explains that she's allowed to stay there because she's part of his family. She mentions that she's his wife, but Human tells her she's his sister in the documents, and he's glad that she's there, because he was worried about leaving her behind. After Human leaves, Lily asks him if he wants her, but he reminds her that she's supposed to act like his sister, wondering who taught her to speak like that. So Camilla admits that she taught her as powerful as him. We see Zenos eating with Human, and he wonders how the students can get a normal healer's license. So she explains that they must first go to school for a few years, before taking the healer exam, which they need to pass to get their license. She notes that there are plenty of job opportunities for them after they pass the exam, and they can even take a rank-up exam after they make a name for themselves. But Zenos asks her about the people who went missing, so she tells him about her senior named Afreed, who's the deputy head of the lab. She notes that he's incredibly talented, and he helped Becker create the cure for the red lung disease, so Zenos wants to find him, asking her if she has any leads. But Professor Goldrin suddenly appears, and she reveals that he's a Class 7 advanced healer, who serves as the vice director of the Royal Hospital. She explains that the 3 levels of healing are divided into 7 classes, and Goldrin's current class is about as high as a healer can get without becoming an elite healer. Zenos wonders why there are so many people with him, so she notes that he has the most authority at the moment, since the current director is too old to attend to his duties. She adds that after he became the vice director, the Royal Hospital has been giving less attention to poor patients because he wants the healers to prioritize the wealthy. She thinks his goal is to advance his political agenda, telling Zenos about the rumors that he reached his current class because of the support he received from the nobles. Zenos wants to stay away from him, but she explains that he can't avoid Goldrin because he might be involved in Afreed's disappearance, revealing that he borrowed him from Becker's lab. We learn that Afreed agreed to it, since he thought it would be a good learning experience, but he went missing after a month. Zenos wonders how he can approach Goldrin, so she tells him to just stand out in class, since Goldrin will contact him when he recognizes his talent. But Zenos thinks he won't stand out, because there's nothing special about him, so she realizes that he doesn't know how talented he is. A boy named Crescent suddenly interrupts them, and he recognizes Zenos as a special research student, telling him to do his best not to embarrass his sponsors. He wonders what's wrong with Crescent, so Human reveals that he's in her class, but he became arrogant after Goldrin's group scouted him. In a flashback, we see Zenos trying to revive a person, but his master stops him, telling him his powers should only be used on the living. He trains with a girl named Veritra, and their master notes that their magic is improving, but he tells them not to get cocky, because healing wounds only makes them a third-rate healer. They recall that he taught them how second-rate healers can completely heal a person, while the first-rate ones can make the world a better place, and their master is glad that they remember his teachings. We return to the present, as Zenos attends a lecture about the undead, and we learn that he already knows about them, because he fought them while he was an adventurer. The professor asks the students if they have questions, and one of them asks him about wraiths, so he explains that they're the highest ranked among the undead. But the healers don't know much about them, because they're extremely rare, and most of the parties that fought them were wiped out. So he advises everyone to run if they see a wraith, telling them the ones that can speak are incredibly dangerous. But Zenos is surprised hearing this, since Camilla can talk. The professor asks if they have fought any undead before, so Crescent brags about defeating 30 ghosts, and everyone thinks he's amazing. He asks Zenos if he has also defeated ghosts before, and he knows that he could instantly exorcise 50 of them, but he just tells everyone he can defeat 30 at once. But they think he's ridiculous, and the professor asks him to explain, so he notes that he used his healing spell to wipe out the ghosts in the underground labyrinth. But the professor can't believe it, because the labyrinth is so dangerous that even gold class parties avoid it. Crescent thinks he's lying, so he tells him to stop talking nonsense, and the next professor begins his lecture on magic circles. He asks the students to draw one on the blackboard, so Crescent draws his best magic circle, which impresses the professor. He wants to see what Zenos can do, and we learn that he doesn't know much about magic circles, but he recalls that his master showed him one a long time ago, so he draws it on the board. Crescent thinks he just made it up, but the professor realizes it's an advanced regeneration spell, and Zenos reveals that it can regrow lost body parts. The professor can't believe it, but he thinks no one can activate it, because it requires an insane amount of mana. But Zenos activates it on the spot, and he notes that it isn't that useful, since he doesn't need it to regrow lost body parts. After that, Goldrin's subordinate tells him about Zenos, telling him he can defeat 30 ghosts at once, and another man reports that the undead have gathered at the graveyard. Goldrin thinks it's the perfect chance to test Zenos, so he decides to send him there, wondering if he can live up to his claims. The students gather to deal with the undead, and they use their healing spells to exorcise the ghosts, but they end up getting surrounded. So Zenos uses his high heal to save them, and Human can't believe he defeated all of the ghosts at once, but Crescent takes credit for his actions, and tells everyone to report his success to the teachers. He prepares to leave with the others, but the zombie king suddenly appears, and they tell him to take care of it, so he freaks out, but Human and Zenos refuse to help him. He tells everyone to run while he buys time for them, and he uses his strongest spell on the monster, but it has no effect, and he struggles to dodge the monster's attacks. Human thinks the ghosts gathered at the graveyard because of the zombie king, revealing that they're drawn to high-level undead creatures, and Zenos realizes that Crescent is in trouble.
That's weird.
She tells Zenos not to help him, because he deserves to suffer, but Zenos knows that she's worried about him, because she didn't leave him behind. The monster catches him, and it prepares to eat him, as he starts begging for help, so Zenos uses his mega heal to obliterate it. Crescent wonders why they saved him, so Human reminds him that he was begging for help, but Zenos thinks about what she told him, and he realizes that the undead were being drawn by Camilla. Zenos returns home, and tells Camilla that the undead gathered at the graveyard because of her, so she wonders if he wants to kick her out. But he thinks it's safer to keep her by his side, because she affects her surroundings, and she calls him a weirdo, since he wants to live with a wraith. The next day, Goldrin's secretary praises Crescent for wiping out the undead, telling him the other students were impressed by his powers. The secretary thinks Zenos failed to live up to their expectations, but Crescent feels like he owes him, so he reveals that Zenos was the one who defeated the undead. Becker tells Zenos that Goldrin wants to interview him, and notes that he doesn't just talk to anyone, because he commands the majority of the support in the Royal Hospital. Zenos wonders why he has more authority than Becker, since he's an elite healer, so he notes that his title doesn't give him political power, since he just earned it by developing medicine. Zenos meets Goldrin, who notes that healers shape the country's history, so they have the power to influence the public. But the ruling class reaps most of the benefits, so he wants to join them in the future, telling him it will strengthen their faction, so they can get the treatment they deserve. He explains that not all life is equal, so the nobles should get special treatment in the hospital, and he asks Zenos to show him his magic circle. He draws it on a piece of paper, and Goldrin checks it to assess the level of his knowledge, realizing it looks amazing, so he accepts him into his lab. The next day, Zenos joins Goldrin's escorts, and they walk around the hospital, as Crescent notes that he recommended him to the lab. Zenos wonders why he'd do that, and he explains that he wants to use him to make his way up. He notes that they'll join Goldrin as he visits his patients, because he wants to create an impression while he heals the nobles, but Zenos runs to get a closer look. He sees a patient who has twisted his ankle, and Goldrin realizes it's a sprain, so he gathers magic from 3 of his students and uses it to heal the man's leg. Xenos returns to Crescent and asks him about the spell Goldrin used, so he reveals that it's called Health Transfer Magic, and it uses people's life force to boost recovery. He explains that Goldrin needs multiple donors to heal his patients, so that he can minimize the burden on them, and Xenos realizes it's the reason why he has so many people with him. But Crescent notes that he's also doing it for the election, because the current director Shalbar is close to retiring, so Goldrin is trying to secure votes to become the next director. Crescent thinks he can make his way to the top by kissing up to him, but Xenos asks him about Afreed, so Crescent reveals that he disappeared after he was invited to dinner. He explains that Goldrin only invites his favorites for dinner, and he notes that he's jealous of them, because they're guaranteed to have a bright future if Goldrin becomes the director. After that, Xenos reports to Becker, who notes that they need more evidence, telling Xenos he should become one of Goldrin's favorites to infiltrate his dinner parties. Becker offers to pay him extra if he succeeds, and he notes that he also wants to learn about his master, so Becker promises to tell him everything he knows. But there are coins that suddenly fall to the ground, and he asks Xenos which one he'll pick up first, wondering if he thinks that all lives are equal. But Human suddenly interrupts them, and Becker recalls that he has a meeting, so he prepares to leave, telling Xenos he's counting on him.
Alright, come on, you little
We see
fucker.
Linda sneaking into Xenos' clinic, but she encounters Sophia,
So
who
many
realizes
freaking
that she's
windows in
also
this
there to
one.
clean the place
What
up.
point?
Lo also bursts in, and notes that she's there for the same reason, so they start cleaning together. We return to Xenos, as Crescent introduces him to Goldrin's pet named Milk, revealing that he's been assigned to take care of her. He notes that Goldrin has a meeting with 7 nobles, thinking he can become one of them if he climbs the faction's ladder, so Xenos realizes that he's working hard to get promoted. He thought healers were supposed to focus on healing people, but Crescent explains that magic isn't all powerful, so he thinks money and status are more important. They meet a drunkard named Bond, who realizes that Crescent is looking after Milk again, but he reveals that he doesn't like her. He tells Crescent he won't get anywhere in life if he keeps kissing up to Goldrin, and Xenos asks him about Bond, so Crescent reveals that he's Goldrin's first secretary. But he doesn't do anything for the faction, so Crescent thinks he doesn't deserve his position, but he suddenly throws a bottle at them, and it almost hits Milk. She runs away, and Crescent chases after her, but she gets hit by a carriage, so he uses his strongest healing spell on her. But it doesn't work, and he thinks it's all over for him, because he can't save Goldrin's favorite pet. Xenos uses his basic healing spell, and Crescent thinks it won't work, thinking they need advanced magic to heal her. But he realizes that she's in perfect condition, and Xenos notes that her bones have been healed, so she can continue to walk like nothing happened, but he suggests letting her rest. After that, Xenos meets Human, who invites him to join her for a walk, and she takes him to the woods, where she apologizes for getting him involved. She explains that she feels guilty, because she wasn't talented enough to be scouted by Goldrin, so he ended up being dragged into it. But he tells her it's okay, because Becker will pay him for his efforts, and he notes that he's grateful for the opportunity, because he was able to step into the hospital. He mentions that he wants to learn about his master, who taught him everything he knows, so he feels like he owes him. Human notes that she also owes Becker, since he served as her mentor, and his girlfriend left him because of his dedication to his research, so she's now looking after him. Xenos asks her about their relationship, so she reveals that Becker is her uncle, but she's nowhere near as talented as him, and she just focuses on researching how to store medicine. She thinks her research is boring, and Xenos agrees with her, but he tells her the most important things in life are usually the most boring ones. She's happy hearing this, telling him he's an interesting person, but they hear Camilla's voice, as she notes that he has found a new lover. So Human wonders what's happening, but he just tells her to ignore it. That evening, they head back to the hospital, but Crescent suddenly approaches them, and he begs them to help him. Goldrin has a meeting with Lord Fennel, who asks him to examine a rash on his daughter's face, which has been growing over the past few days. Goldrin notes that she has the odd face disease, and Fennel asks him if he can cure her, but he knows that it won't be easy. After that, Goldrin thinks about the disease, knowing it isn't life-threatening, but Fennel's daughter needs to undergo surgery, and he's worried that it will leave a scar on her face. He notes that if he has enough donors for his health transfer magic, it would be easy to heal her without surgery, but she doesn't want people to see her face, so he can only bring 2 assistants with him. He decides to spend time with Milk to unwind, but he bumps into Bon, who reveals that she got run over by a carriage. so he becomes upset, asking Bon if he's behind it, but he notes that Crescent has already healed her. Goldrin visits Milk in her room, and he's glad that she's in perfect condition, realizing she doesn't even have a scar on her body. We return to Crescent, as he tells Xenos that he was asked to heal the daughter of Fennel, who has the odd face disease, but Xenos tells him not to panic, asking him why he doesn't just cut it out. So he explains that it's rooted deep into her skin, and the surgery would leave a huge scar on her, thinking he's doomed if he messes up her face. Human wonders why he was given such a difficult task, thinking it's because he stole the credit for something, but he explains that it isn't true, since he told the secretary that Xenos was the one who healed Milk. Lily gives them tea, and Crescent finds her cute, but she explains that she already belongs to Xenos. Goldrin heads to Fennel's mansion, asking him why he's been summoned, so Fennel explains that his daughter refuses to leave her room, because she doesn't want to have a scar on her face. But he thinks Goldrin can treat her without having a scar, asking him to convince her to undergo surgery. They head to her room, and Fennel tells his daughter to let Goldrin handle her treatment. He mentions that he's from the Royal Hospital, and explains that her condition can't be fixed without surgery, but she doesn't trust him, because she thinks Community sent him to ruin her face. Crescent is confident that he can use his charm to change her mind, thinking he can make her fall in love with him, and he introduces himself as Goldrin's assistant. But she looks down on him, telling him he has no right to talk to her, since he's just an assistant, so he becomes depressed. Xenos realizes it's his turn, but he tells her it's okay if she doesn't want to undergo treatment, because her condition won't kill her. He notes that the worst it can do is make her look like an old hag, and he prefers to leave, but she gets worried hearing this, so she decides to listen to them. Goldrin explains that Xenos was telling the truth, because the abnormal growth would make her ugly after a month, and the only way to remove it is through surgery. But she explains that she doesn't want to go under the knife, because there's no guarantee that her face won't be scarred, and she immediately walks away. Xenos talks to her, and he realizes that she has pet birds, but he sees that one of them is injured. She reveals that she found it in the garden, but she believes that it will never fly again, thinking it's just like her, because she's no longer going to be able to leave the house. He wonders if she wants to get better, but she tells him to stop talking to her, asking him who he thinks she is. He notes that she's his patient, and the bird starts flying, so she realizes that he's the real deal. He explains that he doesn't care who she is, because he treats his patients equally, telling her that healing them is his job. He notes that the bird was able to fly again, and he once again asks if she wants to get better, telling her there's still hope for her. Charlotte decides to undergo surgery, and they use Becker's medicine to sedate her, while Fennel tells them to take care of her. Goldrin believes that Crescent was the one who healed Milk, so he tells him to be the surgeon, but Xenos realizes that his hands are shaking. He knows that the procedure is difficult, but Goldrin tells him to focus, and he waits for the roots of the odd face to take hold. Xenos scans Charlotte's body, and tells Crescent where he can find the roots, promising to help him during the procedure. They begin the operation, but Crescent realizes that the roots are tangled with her nerves, and Goldrin notes that her appearance will be ruined if the nerves are cut. But he knows that they can't cure her condition unless they cut off the roots, so he tells Crescent to do it, saying his reputation will be ruined if they don't completely remove the growth. Crescent isn't sure if it's the right thing to do, but Goldrin forces him to do it, and starts blaming him for what happened, telling Fennel his assistant screwed up. He explains that they have no choice but to take her to the Royal Hospital, where they'll use health transfer magic to cure her. But Xenos tells them not to worry, revealing that he can just reconnect the nerves, and he completes the procedure in an instant, telling everyone it's a success.
Sorry about that. Come here, girl.
Nope.
Who are you? What, Deadpool? And I guess you're Deadpool too?
Success. Charlotte later wakes up, realizing the growth is gone, and Fennel notes that Goldrin did a perfect job, so he decides to support him in the upcoming election. But Charlotte remembers hearing Xenos' voice during the procedure, and she asks her father about him. Xenos returns to the hospital, where he helps Human carry Becker's concoctions to the storage room, and he thanks them for their help, asking Xenos if the surgery was a success. Crescent suddenly joins them, telling Xenos they were invited to Goldrin's dinner party. Becker congratulates him, revealing that it's the first time Goldrin has invited someone who has just joined his lab, and he tells Xenos his job is almost done. That evening, everyone gathers for the party, where Goldrin reveals that Director Shalbar will retire next month, and the election for the vacant spot will be held soon. He notes that their faction is the largest in the hospital, and they even have the support of Fennel, so he's confident that he'll win the election. Lily wonders why Crescent didn't bring anyone with him, realizing he isn't popular with the girls, and she wonders if he invited Human to the party. She thinks he likes her, because he's always bothering her, but he explains that he's fine as long as he has Xenos. Goldrin tells everyone at the party to be proud, because he chose them to be in his inner circle, but Xenos starts asking around. He realizes that Afreed went missing while he was looking after Bon, who was drunk at the party, so he asks him about Afreed, but he reveals that he doesn't remember anything. He notes that he liked Afreed, because he was the only one who talked to him during the party, revealing that Goldrin told everyone to stay away from him. But he explains that he doesn't care, because Goldrin is the reason why he can live his carefree lifestyle. Lily wonders how he met Goldrin, but he refuses to answer the question, and tells her to leave him alone. Xenos thinks they can't get anything from him, but she thinks he knows something, so she decides to get him drunk. She listens to his story as she serves him his drinks, and he starts telling her about his life, but Xenos asks her what she's doing. So she reveals that she's using a technique Camilla taught her, and explains that men tend to run their mouths when they're drinking with a girl. Xenos asks him about Afreed, and he reveals that they went outside when he got drunk, so Xenos decides to recreate the situation. Bon drops his drink, and he starts to think Xenos is Goldrin, telling him he's finally about to become a noble, because of what happened 13 years ago. He asks Bon about it, so he reveals that it's the day of the explosion, which changed his life forever, and he notes that Fennel's backing helped him become a professor at the hospital. But Bon suddenly passes out, and Xenos realizes they can't get any more information from him. They return to the mansion, and Xenos notes that they should dig deeper, but Camilla suddenly joins them, and tells them she knows what's going on. We cut to the slum leaders, as they wait for Xenos to return, but a man suddenly tells them that Zahn got into an accident, and he needs medical treatment to survive. Sophia knows that Xenos is working undercover, and she doesn't want to ruin his mission, but the others are convinced that he's the only one who can save Zahn. So she decides to look for him, telling everyone that she believes the real story is that he didn't heal the noble, because it's being kept a secret, and Lily thinks another healer did it. But Goldrin took credit for it, and she notes that Bon must have seen everything, so Goldrin didn't want anyone else to talk to him. She thinks Bon told Afreed the truth, so he went into hiding, since he's afraid that Bon might remember what he told him. But Crescent suddenly interrupts her, and notes that he wants to introduce her to VIPs, so that she'll have a successful future. After she leaves, Xenos notes that there's another possibility, thinking Goldrin may have sacrificed the other victims using his health transfer magic, so that he could save the noble's life. Camilla wonders if it's a crime, so Xenos...
Alright, hang on a second. I need to go get some rocks. Wait, do I have rocks? Ugh. Let's get more rocks. There's a little spray paint on them, but that's fine.
Explains that it's simply triage, which isn't punishable by law, but if Afreed survived the incident, he might be plotting his revenge against Goldrin. She asks Xenos what he plans to do next, so he
No, I don't want to upgrade. Fuck off.
explains that he'll just tell Becker, because it isn't his job to be the judge of what's right. He returns to the party, but he sees Human outside, and she tells the guards she needs to talk to Xenos. She explains that there's an emergency, but they tell her she doesn't have an invitation, so she isn't allowed to enter the mansion. The slum leaders suddenly appear, but Goldrin mentions that demi-humans aren't allowed in his mansion, so he orders his guards to drive them away. But Linda takes them out, and Lo tells Xenos that Zahn needs his help. Sophia apologizes for messing with his plan, but she thinks he's the only one who can save Zahn, and she begs Xenos to help him. Goldrin thinks he's insane, telling him he's sacrificing his future for demi-human peasants, but he explains that he needs to help them, because he is a healer. He leaves with Lily, and Crescent can't believe he just did that, while Goldrin notes that he'll make sure Xenos can never work as a healer again. Crescent notes that he wants to have a successful future, but he recalls how Xenos saved everyone in the past, and he notes that he also wants to be a healer. He decides to follow him, so he withdraws from the faction, and tells Xenos to wait for him so that he can help as well. Xenos heals Zond, and Crescent can't believe he's already done, thinking he's an idiot for quitting the faction. Human tells him he's right, but she reveals that she heard everything, and she's impressed that he actually has a good heart. The next day, Xenos reports to Becker, who thinks Afreed was involved in the incident 13 years ago. Xenos reveals that the party to celebrate Goldrin's election is tomorrow, and Becker decides to attend, because he thinks Afreed will try to get revenge. He tells Xenos his job is done, and promises to tell him about his master after the party, while Human notes that they'll have a farewell for him. We see Crescent drinking in his room, and we learn that he already knows about Xenos' background, but he doesn't want him to leave. Xenos reveals that Lily isn't his sister, and she notes that she's actually his wife, but he explains that it isn't true. Crescent thinks he's losing his mind, because he can see a wraith behind them, and Xenos wonders why Camilla decided to show herself. She reveals that it's because Crescent is drinking her wine.
Maybe.
Her wine. Human asks Xenos about her, so he explains that she's harmless, but she threatens to curse Human if she doesn't give back her wine. After that, Xenos tells Camilla that he doesn't want to leave Human and Crescent, because they're nothing like his party members who didn't treat him well. But he notes that he's used to saying goodbye, and she tells him he'll meet people like them in the future. The next day, Xenos prepares to leave, but Human notes that Becker has a letter for him, telling him it has information about his master. But when she checks Becker's desk, she sees a picture in his cabinet. Xenos is confused when he sees it. We see Goldrin at a party with his supporters, as he notes that he's guaranteed to become the director, and Fell tells him he deserves the position because he saved his life 13 years ago. In a flashback, we learn that Goldrin wasn't a successful researcher, and he was about to return to his hometown, but he saw an explosion in a magic factory. He sees Fell on the ground, and realizes that he can instantly improve his life by saving him, because Fennel is one of the 7 great nobles. Goldrin casts his health transfer magic to heal him, but he uses the other victims as donors, and Bond captures the moment on camera. So to stop himself from being exposed, Goldrin gives him the position of secretary, and allows him to live a carefree life. We return to the present, as Becker congratulates him and gives him wine. He notes that Xenos was a promising student, but thinks he'll never be successful, because he left his faction just to heal peasants, telling Becker that not all lives are equal. Meanwhile, Xenos and Humans see the picture from 13 years ago, and they see that Afreed was there, so they realize that he survived the explosion. But Human is surprised to see a woman in one of the pictures, because she recognizes her as Becker's fiancée. We return to Goldrin, as he prepares to give a speech to his guests, and he invites them to have a toast with him, but after they drink the wine, he suddenly passes out. He later wakes up, and he sees Becker, who reveals that he poisoned everyone, so they will die if they aren't treated within an hour. He notes that Goldrin's wine was less potent, so he still has 2 hours to live, but he wonders why Becker is doing this. So he explains that he's just recreating the moment from 13 years ago, revealing that Xenos investigated the incident and gave him a lead. He notes that Bond kept his mouth shut, so he gave him his special concoction to make him talk, and found pictures from 13 years ago. He knows that Goldrin sacrificed the other victims to save Fennel, and notes that Afreed and his fiancée were among them, telling Goldrin to decide who he wants to save at the party. He wonders if Becker has an antidote, but he drinks his wine, and notes that he just poisoned himself, telling Goldrin to save him if he wants the antidote. Becker tells him to hurry, because he's running out of time, and he decides to heal himself before saving Fennel, because he isn't sure if Becker has the antidote. He prepares to sacrifice his other guests, but Becker reminds him that his poison was less potent, so he has the most life force in the room, telling him he can use it to save everyone. But he notes that he must save himself first, because his life is more valuable than his supporters. Zenos suddenly arrives with his friends, and Human notes that they found the pictures, so she had a feeling Becker was up to something. Zenos realizes that he poisoned everyone, and she wonders why he did that, so he explains that he wants to avenge his fiancée. He knows that her death wasn't an accident, because a Free told him that Goldrin had something to do with it, but he disappeared after their conversation. Becker wanted to know the truth, so he hired Zenos to investigate, and Crescent understands why he wants revenge. He thinks he shouldn't poison innocent people to achieve his goal. Zenos decides to save everyone, because he doesn't want Becker to be arrested for mass murder, telling him that Human will suffer if that happens. Becker explains that it's impossible to remove the toxins, because Zenos doesn't know their specifics, but he thinks it doesn't matter, and uses a basic healing spell on everyone. Becker thinks it's useless, because it won't remove the poison from their bodies, but he realizes that he's starting to feel better. Zenos explains that the poison will eventually wear off, so he just needs to keep healing them until that happens, and Becker thinks he's crazy. But his friends decide to help him, and he tells Becker to be grateful, because they're cleaning up his mess. He can't believe Zenos can maintain his healing spell for an hour, realizing he's on another level, and Becker recalls that his fiancée became a healer to save lives. But Goldrin killed her, so he doesn't want him to become the director, thinking he doesn't deserve the position. Becker thanks Zenos for saving the guests, thinking he and his friends have inherited his fiancée's spirit, but he tells Becker he's tired, so he demands extra pay. Goldrin wonders why he wasn't healed, telling everyone to save him, but they remember what happened, so they know that he was planning to sacrifice them to save himself. Zenos mentions that he can heal him. He notes that he's exhausted, so he asks for a ridiculous amount, and Goldrin is desperate, so he promises to pay him. But Fennel tells Goldrin he wants to talk to him, so he realizes that his life is ruined. After that, Zenos talks to Becker, who reveals that he was interrogated, but he's impressed that Zenos got permission to see him. So he reveals that he knows someone in the Royal Guard, and Krishna joins them, revealing that she helped him meet Becker. Human thinks he didn't poison anyone, and he tells her she's right, revealing that his original plan was to use his drug to paralyze the guests. He wanted to trick Goldrin into thinking he poisoned them, so that he would confess his crimes, but a different chemical was used on the line, and Zenos thinks Afreed was behind it. Becker thinks he was at the party to watch the events unfold, but he notes that he's still guilty, because he knew that the wine was poison, but he decided to pressure Goldrin anyway. Krishna tells Human not to worry, because she can use her authority as vice captain to release him, and Human begs her to do it. Zenos prepares to leave, but Becker asks him about Afreed, and Zenos doesn't believe that he survived the incident 13 years ago. Becker thinks he isn't the same person who was sacrificed by Goldrin, so he wonders what Afreed is up to, telling Zenos he might be his next target. After he leaves, Becker notes that Zenos came to help Human, because she'll tell him that he's proven guilty, and he knows that Zenos is the type of person who wants to save everyone. We see that it was the guy who poisoned the wine, and he notes that he wants to see how Goldrin would react, but Zenos got in his way. We learn that he's Afreed, but another person appears to be controlling his body, and he's ready to make his next move. Zenos prepares to leave, and his friends are sad that he didn't get credit for saving everyone, because they were unconscious when he healed them, but he notes that he got what he wanted. He leaves with Lily, and they return to his clinic, where he's reunited with the girls, who are happy to see him, and he prepares to see his next patient. But that's where this video ends. Remember to like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.
Own a design studio.
On another day, Koji saw some strange men leave his father's house. He thought back to Kaya telling him what she was trying to do, and wondered what her and his father were planning to do to Mio. Back at Mio's place, she prepared a surprise lunch for Kyoka with Yuri's help. After getting dressed, Yuri hurried Mio out so they could make it on time to Kyoka's work for lunch. But this hurry unfortunately meant Mio would leave her amulet behind. Kyoka entered his father's room, surprised to find Kaya was there. Kaya was, of course, here to swap fiancés with her sister, and she reminded Koji he loved Mio. Hearing their plan was to get Mio to be the one who would agree to an annulment, Koji questioned what they were planning, and horrified in the confidence that his father had in succeeding, Kyoka hurried out of the building to meet Mio and Yuri to accept the surprise lunch. He offered for them to go inside, but Mio declined, not wanting to take up any more of his time. The two women already decided to head home. After he quickly went back to his work, Mio became distressed. Realizing she left the amulet at home, the two went back quickly to try to retrieve it, and Mio felt bad. After all, it was a precious amulet given to her by her fiancé. Then suddenly, a car stopped between Mio and Yuri, and out came translucent men who threw Mio into the car and knocked her out right in front of Yuri before speeding away. Kaya explained their plan was to make Mio withdraw her marriage arrangement with Kyoka before she left to take care of her part of the plan. Minoru added he had an obligation to see his lineage thrive and would do whatever it takes. Koji became upset after learning his father knew Mio was getting abused all these years and never lent a hand, all for the Tatsuishi name. He tried to attack with his powers. However, it was clear he was no match for his father, and now felt the crushing weight of his father's lifetime of training. Koji was left defeated and helpless, unable to do
Okay, have to be so dramatic? Just read it.
Drove off, wishing his youngest son had better talent. Kazushi then arrived at where Koji was, poking at his little brother before releasing his bindings. Koji was disappointed at himself for failing Mio so many times and being unable to defeat his father. He hated that he kept saying he'd protect her when he couldn't. Kazushi then teased Koji once again, asking why he even tried to challenge their father if he was going to just sit around and feel sorry for himself. This gave Koji the determination he needed to save the woman he loved. At Kyoka's workplace, he was shocked to hear his fiancée had been kidnapped right off the street, and that she had forgotten the amulet which would have protected her. But now hearing the uproar a man was making trying to see him, Koji begged Kyoka to save Mio. Mio woke up, wondering where she was, now screaming for help, realizing she was tied up, and the only ones arriving to answer her calls were her sister and stepmother. Speeding their way there, Kyoka was surprisingly calm, while Koji was frantic. However, Koji knew Mio could be at no other place than the Saimori household. Mio asked why they were doing this to her, only to get Kanako calling her irritating, saying she should have stayed a servant or died in a ditch somewhere. The stepmother ordered Mio to reject Kyoka's marriage proposal this instant, and that she must directly reject his offer. Kaya giggled as she picked up some shears. She believed Mio's pretty kimono was out of step with her position, and if Mio wouldn't refuse her marriage, the kimono would be cut to shreds. Mio's eyes widened in horror, hearing her sister saying she'd give Koji back once she was engaged to Kyoka. Mio refused, but with the snap of the scissors, Mio squirmed over the damaged kimono her fiancé had bought for her, then stopped once the scissors were at her neck. Mio wondered why this was happening. However, her engagement was the one thing she wouldn't give up. When Kaya began walking away, Mio squeaked out that she couldn't give in to her demands, causing Kanako to smack her in response. Kaya then cut Mio down, and with her on the ground, Kaya pulled her by the hair to call her a failure, reminding Mio of her lack of supernatural gifts. She told Mio an embarrassment like herself couldn't possibly be Lord Kudo's wife, but still, Mio claimed her place as Kyoka's fiancée, and that she would never give that up. Kanako got angrier and began smacking Mio repeatedly, telling Mio she owed her for raising her until now. The stepmother called her a nasty child, leaving Mio tattered on the ground. The Mio from the past would have apologized. That's how she used to live. It was easier that way, but she didn't want to give up. She wasn't the person she used to be. She wanted to go back to where her husband-to-be was. At the Saimori gate, with no one answering the two men's call, Kyoka destroyed it with such a ferocious lightning, the girls could see it from the storage room. Koji could hardly believe the power Kyoka possessed. Shinichi came out asking for an explanation, of course, having no idea what was going on. But stepping in next was Minoru, telling the two younger men Mio wouldn't be returning to the Kudo house. Minoru then stood in their way, saying Mio herself said she wouldn't be going back. But Kyoka wasn't having it. He powered up and started walking forward. The two older men casted a barrier, which Kyoka easily shattered. Minoru was nervous, but still summoned a gale that was easily deflected by Kyoka's own barrier. Then a single lightning strike was all it took to bring Minoru to his knees. It was clear they were no match for the commander. The two older men's power was baby in comparison. Mio got up, exhausted from all the beatings. She gave a defiant look, pissing the stepmother off into pushing her back down. Even so, Mio would not give up her engagement.
My liquid stuff is going to need a little
shouting at Mio to remember her place. But no matter what, Mio wouldn't surrender. For her husband to be who believed in her, she was going to stand her ground. Making their way to the storage house by Koji's lead, the two younger men were met by a surprise.
That version of you that sabotages everything. Let's meet them. Procrastination, self-doubt, analysis paralysis.
A surprise inferno from Minoru. This was no issue for Kyoka, but definitely reckless since it set the Saimori residence ablaze. Seeing a flame tornado was enough for Kyoka, so he shot a lightning bolt directly down on Minoru, knocking him unconscious. And Shinichi fell to his knees, wondering why this was all happening. In the storehouse, Kaya was choking Mio, trying to get her to say she would annul her engagement. In the past, Mio thought of how she was waiting for her time to die. Every single day brought more suffering and sadness. She was tired of living with her emotions shut off. There wasn't any place where she belonged. That's what she always thought. But when Kyoka came into her life, she realized she was wrong. She belonged next to him. Even with her breaths barely escaping her throat and Kaya screaming at her, she wouldn't denounce her engagement. Then finally, Kyoka made it to the storehouse. He ran to Mio, and in her heart, she was glad she never gave up. He softly told her she'd be all right now, and she was grateful he came all the way for someone like her before fading out of consciousness.
Fainting.
Kyoka felt pain seeing
Not
her
fading.
tattered clothing and bruised skin. Kanako decided to step outside to see what was going on, becoming horrified to see her home burning away, and she began to scream and cry. Kyoka then asked Kaya what she was trying to achieve, hurting Mio this much. But Kaya took no fault, claiming all she wanted to do was correct a mistake. She commented on her sister's lack of spirit sight and scrawniness, calling her incompetent even as a servant. She told Kyoka it was a mistake to accept Mio into his family, whilst their parents both said she was the best one. Clamoring about her superiority, Kyoka told her to shut up.
I should have just...
Finally, I hate Kaya and her mom so much. Kaya tried to stop Kyoka from leaving,
Freaking character.
shouting this wasn't fair. However, he had heard enough of her stupid bragging. He told her there was no chance in hell he'd choose it.
Time is it? 10:30. Nope, still going.
Like her. After they left,
Actually,
she
no.
fell to her
I'm
knees,
almost done, I think.
as if everything she had been told her whole life was a lie. Koji grabbed her to evacuate, and when she struggled, he told her to be quiet. And to this, she asked him what he was doing, since he loved Mio. She wanted to be left alone, and he responded she was right. He only loved Mio, but knew Mio's kind heart would lament even her death if she died. He didn't want to leave Mio another painful scar. While Kyoka continued to walk through the flames, Mio saw a vision of her mother apologizing to her for all the hardship she put Mio through. She told Mio to believe in the power within herself before disappearing. Elsewhere, the Emperor was angered that Minoru had failed, and that now the Usuba blood would be possessed by the Kudo family. A young man before him begged to be allowed the opportunity to fulfill his family's long-cherished wish.
What do you look like with your
So,
mix? Hurry up.
with permission, they could commence the plan to crush the Kudo family. Mio
purple?
eventually woke up to Kyoka by her
Oh,
side.
great color.
She was
Okay.
still in a great deal of pain, so he lifted her up. He tried to apologize for not being careful enough, but he didn't blame her. He told her none of this was her fault. She thanked him, and then Yuri came in crying out of relief for Mio's safe return. Mio felt great relief, learning everyone from the Saimori house survived unharmed. Kyoka couldn't believe she was still worried about them, despite everything they put her through. She truly had a kind heart. She was saddened hearing the house burned down, and asked him to take her to see it once again. She was horrified to see the remains of her old home. Having lost the mansion to the fire, her parents let most of the servants go, and were moving to their villa in the countryside. Although it's true the Tatsuishi family caused this to happen, This knowledge was not made public, and they would suffer no legal consequences. But to take responsibility, the eldest son Kazushi would take over as head of the family. And that new head of the family accepted certain restrictions under Kyoka's supervision. Effectively, the Tatsuishi family would be under the Kudo family's command. As a result of this, Kaya was sent alone as a servant to a family known to be very strict, a way to have her experience life outside of the spoiled, sheltered one she lived in. We see Kaya's fiancé Koji telling her they should start a new life from here. He felt strange seeing her pack so few things for their leave. She shouted not to talk down to her, and after he left, she stared in pain looking at the old photo of herself. Mio released a sad sigh, seeing the burnt cherry tree that was planted the day her mother got married. She felt her mother called her here to see it. Touching it, she pulled back, feeling a strange pulse, and before their eyes, the stump dissipated into dust. Kyoka felt terrible, being partially responsible for what had happened. However, Mio told him not to. He saved her, and this made her very happy. Taking their leave, Kyoka began to talk about getting a move on with their marriage procedures. His father had been pressuring him to get married for a while now. Hearing Mio was worried about disappointing his father, Kyoka told her not to worry. If his father gave them trouble, he'd burn him to ashes. Koji met them on their way out, asking to talk to Mio privately. At the gazebo they used to meet at all the time, Mio thanked him for his help. Even though he didn't feel he deserved any credit, he's decided to return to the capital to retrain himself, realizing now how much strength he lacked. He didn't want to be weak anymore, and he was certain Kaya would do her best where she'll be a servant. He wanted to try his best too, to become strong so he could protect who he wanted when he wanted. He then reminded Mio about that time in the rain when he was about to say something to her before Kaya stopped him. Mio thought back to that moment where he told her he wanted to save her, where he told her he wanted the two of them to laugh the way they used to, because she smiled, denying any idea of what he was talking about. He was hurt by this, knowing the woman he loved no longer loved him, but accepted it wholly. He played it off as well and happily took his leave, desiring to strive for better. The engagement procedure was simple. The two lovers only needed to write their names on a form, and in the end, the engagement ceremony was not held by the two families. Now, they were officially engaged, and soon, Mio would become Mrs. Kudo. The idea flustered her. Times were finally joyous. Later, Kyoka's older sister Hazuki makes an appearance. A few nights ago, Mio had told Kyoka she wanted to redo lessons in being a proper lady. Seeing her blush at him, he decided to check her temperature, and she assured him she was fine. He accepted the idea of her getting lessons, and knew the perfect person who had too much leisure time on their hands for the job. We turn back to the present, and see Hazuki excited to see Yuri again after all these years. However, Kyoka sighed, seeing his carefree sister hadn't changed one bit. After they all sat down, Hazuki scolded Kyoka for not telling Mio she was brought here for her lady training. Hazuki apologized on behalf of her brother, who in her words always seemed to neglect explanations. But either way, she was more than happy.
Don't care. Alright, I'm calling that a night. Got some shit done. Anyway, good night. Thank you for stopping by, and I'll see you in the next one.